In the earliest hours of existence, before the sun carved its first warm line across the sky, the world was quiet in a way that felt like it had been holding its breath. There was no hurry here, no sound of footsteps or rushing rivers. Instead, the earth exhaled slowly, a soft rhythm that moved beneath the stillness of clouds and the gentle curve of mountains yet to be born. In this vast and unshaped world, there were beings who moved with care, their thoughts like whispers in the wind. Among them was Rhea, a figure of serene presence, whose gaze seemed to touch both sky and soil with equal tenderness. Rhea moved through the soft mists that hugged the valleys and crests of this early earth. The clouds brushed her face like the lightest silk, and the smell of fresh stone, warmed by the hidden sun beneath the horizon, rose in quiet spirals around her. She felt the world in ways that were almost secret. A small tremor beneath her feet might speak to her of a river finding its path, or the low hum of distant mountains forming their first ridges might tell her the patience required for a life to grow. In this time, the notion of urgency held no power. All things, she knew, unfolded in their own rhythm, and Rhea, gentle and aware, moved in perfect accord with it. She paused near a slope where dew clung to the grass, each droplet trembling like a tiny glass bell. When she crouched to touch one, quivered and reflected the first glimmers of light, faint and shy, yet beautiful. She thought about the children she would one day hold, the gods themselves, and she wondered if they too would carry a quiet awareness of the world's subtleties, or if the burdens of destiny would come too early, shaping their senses into something sharper, less gentle. But even these thoughts were tender. She allowed herself to imagine their laughter, their soft cries, their small hands brushing her cheek as she whispered stories of the early earth. Her own parents, Gaia and Uranus, had shaped much of this world with the steady patience of creation. Rhea remembered the soft warmth of Gaia's hands on her face, the firmness of Uranus' embrace when the winds shook the young mountains. They had taught her that even immense power could be wielded with care, that holding life in your hands required gentleness. Rhea carried those lessons with her, a subtle rhythm in her heartbeat that mirrored the pulse of the planet itself. The sky above, still shy and veiled, began to lighten, a slow swirl of soft peach and lavender, like a caress rather than a command. Birds, small and delicate, started to stir. Their wings brushed the morning air with quiet certainty, their calls tender and uneven, as though testing the world for echoes. Rhea listened. She smiled. Every sound, every scent, every trembling leaf was a note in a quiet symphony she was only beginning to understand fully. Her thoughts were not hurried or tangled. Instead, they drifted like clouds, touching the edges of things, curious but patient. As she wandered, Rhea came to a small grove where the ground was still wet with lingering mist. The trees were old beyond imagining, their bark smooth yet knotted with secrets. Moss spread like a slow, deliberate carpet across their roots. She leaned against the trunk of one, feeling its gentle pulse beneath her palm, and listened to the quiet chatter of hidden life. Somewhere in the roots, tiny creatures shifted. Somewhere above, leaves whispered together in a language that felt familiar and welcoming. She smiled again, a slow, unhurried smile. Even here, in the untouched corners of the world, life whispered stories she would carry in her heart. The thought of Kronos, her future companion, and the one with whom she would share a destiny both weighty and tender, passed lightly through her mind. She did not yet know the complications of their fates, the subtle tensions that would ripple through their lives. For now, he was simply a presence she had felt, a sense of strength and steadiness like the distant mountains she loved to wander near. She imagined a future where they would walk together, their steps slow and thoughtful, their hands brushing against the soft edges of the world they would one day shape. It was a vision more of warmth than urgency, more of calm companionship than any turmoil. Rhea's senses were alive in the soft light. She could feel the dew on her fingers, the rough smoothness of moss under her palm, the slight tremor of the wind across her cheek. She noticed the scent of earth after the faintest hint of rain, the clean tang of stone warmed by hidden sunlight. All these small details seemed to hum in harmony with her own breath. She thought about how delicate life would be, even in its grandest forms, and how every moment of care could ripple through generations. Even a quiet touch, she realized, could become a memory etched into the world itself. She paused again at the edge of a gentle stream, watching water swirl over pebbles, creating small, bright patterns in its reflection. The water sang softly as it moved, a gentle song that needed no words. Rhea knelt and touched the surface with her hand, feeling the subtle chill and the soft pull of the current. It was a sensation that filled her with a quiet wonder, a reminder that life's rhythm was not always loud or dramatic. Some of the most profound truths were revealed in whispers, in small, tender interactions between a being and the world it moved through. And as she sat by the stream, Rhea allowed her thoughts to drift toward the children she would one day bear. In the calm of the early world, she imagined them small and delicate, their fingers exploring leaves, their voices soft and curious, their eyes wide with wonder at the simple things the earth offered. She imagined herself holding them close, feeling their warmth, guiding them with quiet hands and a patient heart. Even the vastness of the world, with its mountains and rivers, did not feel overwhelming here. In this gentle space, life seemed entirely possible to shape with care. The sun's first touch had begun to settle softly across the horizon. It painted the sky in subtle gradients of peach, lavender, and the faintest gold. Rhea's hair caught the light, a slow wave that shimmered like the surface of the stream beside her. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the warmth touch her face, letting the quiet symphony of the early world fill her senses. In this gentle calm, she understood something profound, that life, in all its vastness, could be nurtured slowly, carefully, with patience and tender attention. And that understanding, she felt, would be one of the most important gifts she could ever give. Rising from her quiet meditation by the stream, Rhea continued her wanderings, moving through soft mists and past towering stones that hummed under her fingers. Each step was deliberate, each breath a part of the gentle rhythm that pulsed through the world itself. She knew that one day, her actions would carry weight far beyond the present moment, but she carried that knowledge without rush, without fear. For now, the world was soft, welcoming, and patient, and Rhea, in her gentle way, moved through it with eyes wide to its quiet wonders, heart open to its whispers, and hands ready to shape life with care. And as the sun climbed higher, casting its soft warmth over valleys and hills, she felt the first quiet stirrings of life that would one day call her mother. The world was patient, and so was she. And in that patience lay the gentle promise of what was to come. Rhea moved through the world with a quiet certainty, carrying in her heart the lessons of her parents. The hills, rivers, and forests seemed to bend toward her presence, not out of fear, but out of a soft recognition of her gentle rhythm. She had learned to listen to the earth as one might listen to a friend, sensing not just movement, but intention, not just growth, but purpose. Every leaf, every blade of grass, every ripple of water spoke to her if she paused long enough to hear. It was during one of these slow wanderings, when the morning sun had begun to melt the last of the mist from valleys, that Rhea first met Kronos. The wind carried his presence to her before she even saw him, a subtle shift in the currents, a soft vibration in the ground beneath her feet. He moved with the same ease, the same unhurried strength that she cherished in herself. There was no abruptness in his approach, no sudden drama. He simply existed, as the mountains did, as the rivers did, as the steady pulse of the earth itself did. When she turned, she saw him among the rolling hills, a figure both commanding and serene. The light touched him in a way that softened his edges, his eyes reflecting curiosity without haste. Rhea's first thought was not fear nor surprise, but a gentle recognition, as though she had known him through the whisper of the wind and the quiet hum of the soil. She could feel the rhythm of his breath, deep and measured, like the slow rise and fall of tide she had not yet seen. "Kronos," she said softly, the sound of her voice blending with the rustle of the trees. He responded without haste, a simple nod and a calm smile. "Rhea," he said, his voice warm and steady, carrying with it a sense of ancient patience. It was a name spoken not in command or possession, but in acknowledgement, in shared understanding. They walked together then, not side by side, but in a natural accord, as though the world itself had arranged the path beneath their feet. The grass was cool under their bare feet, the scent of early blooms rising with each step. Small animals peeked from the underbrush, curious but not afraid, sensing the soft energy that moved between them. Rhea glanced at Kronos, noticing the ease in his movements, the gentleness of his gaze. In that quiet connection, she felt a warmth that was not fire, but sunlight filtered through leaves, soft and steady. They came upon a small clearing, where a brook wound lazily between stones polished smooth by unseen currents. Rhea knelt by the water, letting her fingers trail along its surface, feeling the gentle tug of the current. Kronos knelt beside her, his hand brushing hers briefly. She felt a pulse, not of urgency, but of shared understanding, a rhythm that promised partnership rather than dominion. Rhea's thoughts drifted, as they often did in these quiet moments, to the future she could imagine with him. She thought of children, of life shaped with care, of a world nurtured in gentle hands. There was no fear in these thoughts, only a patient curiosity, a wonder at what could be. Kronos seemed to share the same vision, not in words, but in the ease of his presence, in the way his gaze lingered on the world rather than claiming it. The sun climbed higher, and light fell upon their figures, painting the clearing in soft hues of gold and green. Rhea could feel the warmth on her skin, the texture of the earth beneath her, the soft whisper of wind through the branches. Kronos reached out to brush a stray lock of hair from her face, a gesture tender and deliberate. She closed her eyes briefly, savoring the gentle touch, the quiet intimacy of a moment that needed no grandeur to be profound. Days passed like this, though not counted by hours, but by soft rhythms of the earth. They wandered together across valleys and hills, through groves where the light dappled the ground, where streams murmured and stones hummed. Rhea learned to see Kronos not as a companion to follow, but as a presence to share with, a strength that was patient rather than forceful. She shared her thoughts with him in whispers, her reflections on the subtle pulse of the world, and he listened, nodding gently, offering responses that were quiet but full of depth. In these days of calm wandering, Rhea felt life stirring within her in ways she had not anticipated. She felt a quiet swelling in her heart, an instinctive awareness that her own story was merging with the rhythms of Kronos, and that new life would soon echo their gentle steps across the earth. She imagined the children she would one day hold, their fingers brushing streams and leaves, their laughter mingling with the songs of birds, their eyes wide with wonder at the beauty of the world she and Kronos tended together. Rhea's thoughts often returned to the small details of life she had loved since childhood, the texture of moss beneath her fingers, the pattern of sunlight on water, the whisper of wind through young trees. She imagined teaching these things to her children, guiding them with patience, letting them discover the soft, hidden music of the world. And in her imagination, she could see Kronos doing the same, his hands shaping, not constraining, the life that would emerge around them. Even in the quiet of these moments, Rhea could sense the weight of what was to come. Not fear, but a deep awareness that life was fragile, that love and care must be constant if it were to flourish. She held this thought gently, like a small flame she did not wish to smother, nurturing it with patience rather than rushing it into brightness. Kronos seemed to share this understanding, moving beside her with the same measured care, as though the world itself had entrusted them with a secret only they could hold. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the hills, Rhea and Kronos found themselves near a gentle rise where the wind gathered and played with the grass in slow waves. They paused there, letting the breeze sweep across their skin, listening to the soft murmur of life around them. Rhea felt a quiet anticipation, not anxious, but expectant, like a seed waiting to unfurl. She turned to Kronos, meeting his calm gaze, and in that look, they shared the silent promise of a future shaped together, of children nurtured in love, of life unfolding with care. The evening fell gently, wrapping the world in soft shades of lavender and deepening gold. Rhea felt the earth beneath her, solid and comforting, and the wind against her cheek, whispering of things not yet born. Kronos remained beside her, a quiet presence, steady and unhurried. And as the first stars began to prick the sky with tiny lights, Rhea closed her eyes, letting the calm wash over her, feeling the gentle stirrings of life yet to come, and the promise of the children who would one day call her mother. In the hush of that twilight, with the world breathing around them, Rhea understood the quiet power of patience and care. Life, she realized, was not shaped by haste or force, but by gentle attention, by the love that moved steadily through moments both large and small. And so, as the night gathered softly around hills and streams, Rhea and Kronos remained side by side, their hearts quietly attuned to the rhythms of the world, ready for the soft, unfolding story that was only just beginning. The hills and valleys where Rhea wandered seemed to hum with life in ways she had always known but never fully realized until now. Each morning, the dew glimmered like tiny lanterns across the grass, and the soft light of dawn painted every stone and leaf in muted golds and gentle greens. Rhea moved through these familiar places with a tender attentiveness, her fingers brushing the surfaces of bark, moss, and water, as though she could feel the heart of the world beneath her hands. It was during one of these quiet mornings that she first felt the unmistakable stir of life within her own body. Not sudden or alarming, but gentle, a soft pulse, like the distant beating of a drum beneath the earth. She paused in a shaded grove where the sunlight filtered through branches, scattering in delicate patterns across her skin. She pressed her hand to her abdomen and felt warmth spread through her, a slow, tender rhythm that seemed to echo the world around her. Rhea's heart swelled with a quiet, protective love. She thought of the children who would come, of their first soft cries, their small hands reaching for her face, their wide eyes drinking in the light of this gentle world. Each imagined movement, each imagined sound, carried a weight of joy she had never known before, and she smiled softly, closing her eyes to savor the feeling. Even the wind seemed to pause, brushing lightly across her hair, as though it too wished to honor this quiet beginning. Kronos was near, tending to the distant hills and streams, yet always attentive to her presence. He approached slowly, his bare feet pressing softly into the grass, and knelt beside her without words. He did not speak, for there was no need. His presence alone was a comfort, a quiet affirmation that they shared the same gentle awareness of the miracle growing within her. Rhea reached for his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin, the steady beat of his pulse, and serene certainty settled over her. In the days that followed, Rhea moved carefully through the world, noticing even the smallest details, the delicate curl of a fern, the shimmer of water as it slipped over stones, the soft, distant hum of life hidden beneath moss and leaf litter. Each sensation seemed heightened, more vivid, as though the world itself had tuned its senses to the quiet life she carried. She found herself speaking softly to the children she had not yet met, whispering promises of warmth and safety, of soft hands guiding them through gentle mornings, of quiet lessons taught beneath the light of the early sun. When the first child stirred more insistently within her, Rhea felt a wave of anticipation, not sharp or anxious, but warm and enveloping. She found a grove where the air was cool and fragrant, where the soft earth yielded beneath her hands, and she lay down among the ferns and stones. Kronos knelt nearby, watching, his gaze steady and full of care. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch light, grounding, and full of reassurance. Time passed in gentle rhythms, measured not by minutes or hours, but by the soft unfolding of life within her. Rhea's body whispered its own language, subtle shifts that spoke of growth and preparation. She listened attentively, leaning into the sensations, learning each note of this quiet symphony. She thought about the children she would soon hold, imagining their small features, their tiny hands, their soft breathing in the warmth of her embrace. Each thought filled her with a profound, unhurried joy. Finally, one morning, the quiet anticipation reached its tender culmination. In the soft light that filtered through the trees, the first child arrived, not with tumult or cries, but with a gentle breath, a soft warmth that filled the grove like sunlight. Rhea held the infant close, feeling the subtle rhythm of life against her chest. She marveled at the smallness, the fragility, the perfection of this new being. Kronos bent close, his eyes reflecting the soft light, and together they shared a quiet, wordless joy. She named the child Hestia, for the hearth and home, the gentle warmth that would always nurture those who came after her. Rhea whispered soft promises, her lips brushing the infant's hair, her hands tracing the curves of tiny fingers. "You will always know the quiet songs of the world," she murmured. "You will carry patience, care, and warmth in your heart." Hestia cooed softly in response, the sound that felt like a note in the symphony of dawn itself. Days passed with a gentle rhythm of care. Rhea watched Hestia explore the small world around her, feeling the wonder reflected in her child's eyes. She marveled at the tiny ways in which life adapted and grew, at the delicate unfolding of curiosity, at the soft trust placed in her hands. Kronos assisted quietly, helping guide the child over small stones, pointing out the shimmer of a creek, the fragrance of blossoms. Together, they shaped a world that was patient, nurturing, and filled with calm delight. Yet, even in this quiet bliss, Rhea felt the faint shadow of prophecy, not as a threat, but as a gentle caution. She had learned from her parents, Gaia and Uranus, that even the softest life carries the weight of destiny. She knew that her children, as tender and beautiful as they were, would be shaped by larger forces, by rhythms that extended beyond the calm of this grove. And so she held them close, whispering not just warmth, but guidance, soft assurances of protection and care. The world outside their grove might shift and change, but here, in the heart of gentle sunlight and dew-laden leaves, life could be nurtured with love and patience. The second child came in similar quietness, another morning wrapped in gold and lavender light. Rhea held the infant, feeling the new pulse, and smiled. She named this one Demeter, for the nurturing earth, for the cycle of growth and harvest that she already felt stirring in the folds of her heart. Each child, arriving softly into her life, carried the same promise, the promise of life, of patience, of gentle unfolding. Kronos remained near, a quiet guardian, his presence steady, unwavering, full of calm strength. Rhea marveled at the world she and Kronos were shaping together. Every small moment, the way the wind lifted a leaf, the ripple of water over smooth stones, the scent of moss and bloom, became part of the careful instruction she offered her children. She whispered to them not as commands, but as invitations: explore, wonder, rest, and learn. And in every gesture, every gentle touch, she conveyed a subtle truth she hoped would carry through the years. Life could be both tender and resilient, soft and enduring, quiet and full of purpose. As evening approached, Rhea sat by the stream, her children nestled beside her, their small hands reaching for her face, for her hair, for the gentle warmth of her embrace. Kronos sat close, his hand resting lightly over hers, the world around them softening in the muted glow of the dying light. The first stars pricked the sky with tiny points of silver, and the night settled gently, wrapping the grove in a blanket of quiet wonder. Rhea felt the weight of life in a tender, joyous way, sensing that these children were only the beginning. She could not yet imagine all the stories they would weave, all the gentle lessons she would impart, or all the subtle truths the world would reveal to them. But she knew, with serene certainty, that she would be ready. And so, in the hush of the evening, surrounded by the soft stirrings of life and the calm presence of Kronos, Rhea closed her eyes for a moment, listening to the gentle rhythm of their breathing, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath them, and embracing the quiet promise of the life she had begun to nurture. The world was patient, and so was she. And in that patience lay the gentle assurance of what was to come, the unfolding of children who would one day shape the heavens and the earth under her calm, tender guidance. The mornings grew warmer as the seasons gently shifted over the hills and valleys, each day painting the world in new shades of soft gold, tender green, and the faintest whispers of lavender. Rhea moved through this world as she always had, barefoot over the dew-laden grass, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, and listening to the quiet hum of life in all its forms. Each flower, each ripple of water, each bird's song became a gentle note in a symphony she felt deep within her heart. Rhea's days were filled with small attention to her children, who were growing slowly and carefully, exploring their surroundings under her watchful eyes. Hestia and Demeter had begun to notice the textures of the world: rough bark, soft moss, smooth stones, and Rhea encouraged them to reach out, to touch, to feel. "Notice the quiet ways life moves," she would whisper, her voice a soft breeze through the leaves. "Even the smallest rustle has meaning." The children would look up at her with wide, curious eyes, absorbing not just her words but the calm certainty in her presence. Yet, as the soft rhythm of their days continued, Rhea began to notice a subtle shift in Kronos. It was never harsh or sudden, only a quiet tension beneath his otherwise steady demeanor. Sometimes, when he watched her with the children, his gaze would linger in thought, and a shadow of worry would crease his forehead. Rhea felt the change, not as fear, but as a gentle unease, like the distant echo of a storm yet unseen. She did not question him directly. Instead, she observed, patient and tender, knowing that some truths revealed themselves slowly, in their own time. The quiet anticipation within her began to stir once more. Life was moving gently, but insistently, and soon another child would come. She found a soft, secluded grove by a trickling stream, where the sunlight wove through the trees in slow, golden beams, and the air carried the fragrance of moss, earth, and new blooms. This grove felt safe, as if the world itself had prepared it for what was about to arrive. Rhea settled among the ferns and stones, feeling the first tender movements of life growing within her. Kronos arrived quietly, his presence steady, though she could sense his mind carrying thoughts heavier than the calm of the grove. He knelt beside her, offering his hand, and she took it with a soft smile. "It is time," she said gently, her voice steady and warm. Kronos nodded, but the crease in his brow deepened slightly, an echo of a worry he could not yet voice. Rhea did not press him. She understood that fear could sometimes shadow the gentlest moments, but could not touch the quiet certainty she carried in her heart. The birth was tender, unfolding in the soft light of the morning. Rhea held the infant close, feeling the delicate warmth, the subtle heartbeat, and the soft breath of life. There was no rush, no loud cries, only the quiet unfolding of a new presence into the world. She named this child Poseidon, for the waters that danced across the earth, for the quiet strength of rivers, streams, and seas yet to be shaped. As she held Poseidon, she felt the gentle promise of life flowing in rhythmic waves, and she whispered soft assurances that the world would always offer warmth, guidance, and care. Kronos watched quietly, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. Rhea noticed the flicker of thought behind his steady gaze, the shadow of concern for the future. Yet she held her children close, speaking to them softly, letting the calm of the grove carry through their tiny bodies, their first breaths, their small, unsteady movements. "The world is gentle," she whispered. "It moves in rhythms you will learn. Let it guide you." Poseidon blinked up at her with new wide eyes, and she felt the soft spark of wonder that would grow in him as surely as rivers would carve their paths through stone. Days passed in quiet joy. Hestia and Demeter followed Rhea along the soft paths of the grove, learning the gentle lessons of leaves, stones, and sunlight. Poseidon rested in her arms or lay on a blanket of moss, gazing at the soft movements of the world with curiosity. Rhea found a small comfort in the symmetry of their rhythms and the tender unfolding of life around her. The world, she realized, seemed to bend not in grand gestures, but in small, delicate ways toward love and care. Yet the quiet shadow of prophecy lingered at the edges of her awareness. Kronos sometimes spoke softly to her in hushed tones when the children were asleep, his voice measured but tinged with worry. "What if they grow beyond us?" he asked once, not with fear for their lives, but with the weight of destiny pressing lightly on his mind. Rhea listened with patience, offering gentle words rather than arguments. "They will grow as they must," she said softly, "and we will guide them with care. There is strength in patience." Kronos nodded, though the crease in his brow remained, a silent companion to the warmth of the grove. Soon after, Rhea felt another quiet stirring within her, and the soft cycle of anticipation began once more. She wandered the hills, touching leaves, listening to the murmur of hidden streams, and breathing in the fragrance of earth in bloom. Each step was a meditation, a soft attunement to the rhythms of life around her. She thought of the children yet to come, of the gentle ways in which she would teach them to observe, to wonder, to move through the world with curiosity and care. Even the distant shadow of Kronos' worry could not diminish the deep calm that flowed within her. The birth of the next child came the hush of twilight, when the sky was painted with muted gold and soft lavender. Rhea held the infant close, feeling the subtle warmth, the rhythmic pulse, the delicate weight of life itself. She named this child Hades for the quiet strength of the unseen, the steady depth that underlies the earth and gives shape to what moves above. Hades opened small eyes, calm and observing, as though already attuned to the subtle rhythms that Rhea had taught her older children to notice. As the evening settled over the grove, Rhea sat with all three children nestled in soft blankets, their small hands reaching for each other, for the gentle world she and Kronos were shaping together. The first stars pricked the sky with tiny lights, reflecting softly on the stream, the stones, and the moss around them. Rhea felt the quiet flow of life, a rhythm that was steady, patient, and full of tender possibility. Kronos remained beside her, his presence calm but thoughtful, a quiet partner in this gentle unfolding. In the hush of that twilight, Rhea whispered to her children, "The world is patient, and so are we. It will teach you, and we will guide you softly, gently, always." And as the wind brushed the leaves and the stream murmured its quiet song, she understood, with serene certainty, that life was being shaped not by haste or fear, but by the steady, careful rhythm of love and attention. And so, in the soft gathering of night, with stars above and earth beneath, Rhea and Kronos rested alongside their children, hearts quietly attuned to the unfolding of life, ready for the gentle continuation of the story that had only just begun. The world carried on in soft, measured rhythms, as though it knew the careful work unfolding among its hills and valleys. Rhea moved through the early mornings with her children, her fingers brushing dew-laden leaves, her eyes tracing the subtle shifts of sunlight as it danced across the grass. Hestia, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hades followed her, exploring the gentle world with small, unhurried steps. Each of them seemed to carry a quiet awareness of their mother's patience, of the soft strength that moved through every touch, every whispered word, every shared breath. Yet beneath the calm of daily life, Rhea felt a quiet weight pressing in her mind. Kronos, her steadfast companion, often spoke in hushed tones of shadows she could almost sense but could not fully see. The prophecy her parents had once spoken to him lingered between them, soft and insistent, that one of their children would rise to challenge him. It was a truth that Rhea could not alter, but she could approach it with gentleness, with care, and with a quiet wisdom that had always guided her steps. Another stirring within her body told Rhea that life was preparing once more, that another child would soon arrive. She found herself drawn to a secluded valley where the stream curved slowly around ancient stones, where moss and ferns offered soft carpets for her to rest upon. The air smelled faintly of earth warmed by the sun, with a hint of wildflowers carried on the breeze. She lowered herself onto the soft ground, closing her eyes for a moment to feel the rhythm of life within her, the subtle pulse that spoke of growth, of movement, of life's gentle insistence. Kronos appeared nearby, his movements slow and deliberate. He knelt beside her, hand brushing her hair back with care, his gaze thoughtful and calm. He said nothing, for he knew that this was her moment, the quiet unfolding of a new life, and that words could only intrude upon the delicate rhythm of creation. Rhea smiled softly at him, feeling the warmth of his presence and the quiet steadiness that had always accompanied her steps. The birth unfolded in the hush of the valley, gentle and deliberate. The soft breath of life entered the world without fanfare, a tender unfolding that seemed to harmonize with the murmur of the stream, the rustle of leaves, and the distant call of birds waking in the morning. Rhea held the child close, feeling the warmth, the subtle heartbeat, and the fragile perfection of this new being. She named this child Hera, for the quiet strength of home and unity, for the gentle balance that sustains life even in unseen ways. Hera's small fingers curled around Rhea's hand, and the mother felt a surge of tender joy, a quiet certainty that life could flourish under the careful guidance of love and attention. She whispered softly, letting her words drift like the lightest breeze. "You are safe, my darling. You will grow in warmth, in wonder, in gentle strength." Hera cooed in response, a sound that seemed to ripple through the valley itself, harmonizing with the murmurs of the earth. Rhea's thoughts turned to her eldest children, Hestia, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hades, and she marveled at the ways in which they were already beginning to notice the world's quiet rhythms. Each step they took, each small gesture, carried the imprint of her guidance, the imprint of careful observation and loving attention. She realized that even as she faced the looming shadow of prophecy, she had already begun to nurture the qualities that would help her children navigate the world with grace and patience. Days passed with the soft rhythm of nurture. Rhea watched over her children with tender attentiveness, guiding them through the smallest lessons, how to follow the murmur of a stream, how to recognize the subtle scent of earth after rain, how to feel the movement of the wind as it brushed across leaves. She taught them without haste, without command, allowing them to discover the quiet patterns of life themselves. Kronos remained near, sometimes restless in thought, but always careful not to disturb the gentle unfolding of their days. Rhea's awareness of the prophecy grew quietly, like a shadow stretching across the hills at dusk, but she did not allow fear to rule her heart. Instead, she considered her options with calm deliberation, seeking a way to protect the life growing within her without stirring tension or alarm. She wandered among the hills, her hands brushing moss and fern, her eyes tracing the soft light as it played across the stones, thinking of a plan that would keep this child safe, even in the face of unseen destiny. And so, when the next child stirred, she was ready. She gathered soft clothes, arranged a hidden nook in a grove where the earth was soft and the stream whispered a gentle lullaby, and waited with serene patience. Kronos appeared, his brow faintly furrowed, yet he stayed back, respecting the quiet space she had prepared. Ria's heart swelled with gentle resolve. She whispered to herself, "You will be safe, always loved." The birth was soft and deliberate, a delicate unfolding that seemed to harmonize with the world itself. Ria held the child close, feeling the warmth, the subtle pulse, the gentle rise and fall of new life. She named this child Hestia, after the sacred hearth, the quiet center that holds the warmth of home and family. Her hands lingered on the child, tracing small curves and tiny fingers, and she marveled at the fragile perfection of life, at the wonder of its careful unfolding. With each child, Ria felt the weight of destiny gently pressing against her heart, yet she did not yield to fear. She understood that her role was not to fight what was to come, but to guide life with care, to create spaces of calm and safety, to ensure that even in a world shaped by larger forces, her children would know warmth, patience, and love. She whispered to them softly, their tiny eyes gazing up at her with trust and wonder, and the quiet promise of protection settled around them like a soft cloak. As twilight gathered over the hills and valleys, Ria sat among her children, Kronos close but silent, listening to the soft rhythm of life, the murmur of the stream, the gentle rustle of leaves, the faint calls of distant birds returning to their nests. She felt a quiet anticipation, not anxious but expectant, for the final child who had yet to come, the one whom the prophecy spoke of most urgently. Her mind moved gently through possibilities, considering how she might shield this child, how she might prepare for the delicate balance of love, care, and faith. The evening deepened, the stars beginning to prick the sky with tiny points of silver, and the world seemed to exhale around them. Ria closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath her, the warmth of Kronos nearby, the small, steady breathing of her children. In the hush of that twilight, she whispered a quiet promise, not just to them, but to the life yet to come. You will be safe. You will know love. You will know how to be calm. Always. And as the night wrapped the grove in soft shadows, Ria rested, her heart quietly attuned to the gentle rhythm of life, ready to guide, protect, and nurture, even as destiny began to murmur softly at the edges of their world. The nights had grown long and quiet, stretching over the hills and valleys where Ria wandered with her children. The stars reflected softly in the streams, glimmered on dew-laden leaves, and peeked through the branches of tall, ancient trees. The air was always carrying the faintest fragrance of moss and earth, a reminder of the gentle rhythm of life beneath her feet. Ria felt the same rhythm within her own body, subtle and insistent, the gentle pulse that told her the final child was about to come into the world. She moved slowly, deliberately, through a secluded grove she had discovered months before, where the soft ground of moss and fern seemed to cradle her steps. The stream that curved through it murmured softly, a quiet lullaby. She arranged a nest of soft leaves and cloth, fragrant with herbs she had gathered for warmth and comfort. Kronos had been restless these past days, his unease barely veiled behind his steady demeanor. Ria sensed the weight of the prophecy pressing upon him, yet she kept her thoughts calm, her movements gentle, and her focus unwavering. The moment arrived quietly, without urgency, with the soft insistence of life finding its way into the world. Ria held the child close, feeling the warmth and heartbeat, marveling at the delicate perfection of this new being. She named him Zeus, though the name whispered softly to her own heart, a reminder of strength and light yet unseen. Unlike the others, this child carried not just her love, but also the quiet promise of protection she had carefully prepared. Ria knew that Kronos' fear of the prophecy could endanger Zeus. She had planned for this, gathering soft swaddles in a secret hiding place in the depths of the mountains, a cave with gentle slopes and the faint echo of flowing water. It was a place where life could be nurtured quietly, away from the reach of destiny's more immediate demands. She wrapped Zeus carefully, whispering soft words of warmth and reassurance. "You will be safe, little one." "Always safe," she murmured, feeling the pulse of his tiny heart, the gentle rise and fall of his breath. Kronos approached, sensing the presence of his youngest child, but Ria's steady gaze held him back. She did not speak, but her eyes carried the quiet authority of patience and determination. She lifted Zeus into her arms and moved slowly toward the hidden paths she had memorized, every step deliberate, every touch careful. The wind brushed her hair and the soft leaves, as if the world itself were guiding her journey, carrying her and her precious child toward safety. The journey to the hidden cave was slow and gentle. Rhea felt every vibration of the earth beneath her, every whisper of wind against her skin, every faint murmur of life in the quiet forest. She imagined Zeus growing here, learning the soft language of the world, feeling the rhythm of the earth beneath him, and discovering the gentle pulse of life at his own pace. She imagined the small comforts she would provide: soft water from the stream, warm moss beneath his hands, sunlight filtered gently through branches to kiss his face. Finally, she arrived at the cave, a soft hollow hidden behind vines and ancient stones. It smelled faintly of earth and water, a soothing combination that wrapped around her senses like a soft cloak. She placed Zeus gently on a bed of moss and soft cloth, brushing her fingers across his hair and the tiny curves of his hands. "You are safe now," she whispered. "Here, you will grow in calm, in wonder, in quiet strength." The child stirred in response, a small, gentle movement that seemed to echo the soft rhythms of the world itself. Rhea knew that the days ahead would require vigilance and careful attention. She had already chosen caretakers, nymphs and gentle beings of the mountains who would feed and nurture Zeus in secret, teaching him the soft patterns of life without alarming the wider world. Each day would be filled with quiet instruction, with whispered lessons on the rhythm of the wind, the murmur of streams, and the subtle movement of leaves. Zeus would grow in patience, curiosity, and gentle strength, shielded from the immediate fears of destiny, but attuned to the pulse of life that surrounded him. As evening fell, Rhea lingered for a moment, holding her breath and feeling the calm settle over the cave. She placed a soft cloth over Zeus, letting the faint scent of moss and earth envelop him. The stars began to prick the sky, casting tiny points of silver across the darkening valley. She whispered once more, "You are loved. You are safe. You are ready to grow, slowly and gently." The wind stirred through the cave entrance, carrying her words softly into the night. Kronos remained distant, unaware of the precise location of his youngest son. Rhea's heart felt a quiet, steady satisfaction. The prophecy could wait. The world could wait. For now, there was only the soft pulse of life, the gentle rhythm of care, and the quiet certainty that Zeus would grow surrounded by love and calm. She traced her fingers across his tiny hands once more, feeling the perfect weight of his body against hers, and a warmth spread through her chest, deep and unhurried. Night settled over the hills and valleys, wrapping the earth in soft shadows and muted silver light. The stream murmured its gentle song, the leaves whispered quietly to each other, and the soft rhythm of life continued in its patient, steady way. Rhea left the cave slowly, pausing at the entrance to look back, her heart full of quiet pride and love. She knew the child she had hidden here would one day rise to his place among the gods, but for now, he was safe, protected, and nurtured in the calm embrace of the world she had carefully prepared. And so, as the first cool breath of night brushed her cheek and the stars reflected softly in the distant streams, Rhea moved back toward her older children, her steps deliberate and calm, her mind at peace. Zeus lay nestled in a hidden cave, small and perfect, surrounded by warmth, love, and the quiet promise of a gentle, unfolding life. The world itself seemed to sigh with relief, embracing the hidden child, honoring the careful patience and unwavering love of the mother who had prepared him so tenderly. The cave nestled in the folds of the mountains held a gentle, quiet magic. Its walls were smooth with the passing of time, dotted with faint streaks of moss that glimmered softly when sunlight filtered through small openings. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of earth, stone, and the whisper of water from a hidden stream nearby. It was here, in this secluded place, that Zeus would grow under the patient care of Rhea and the nymphs she had chosen, far from the prying eyes of Kronos. From the very first days, the nymphs treated Zeus not as a fragile creature to be coddled excessively, but as a being to be gently guided. They sang soft lullabies, melodies that echoed the rhythm of the wind through the trees and the murmur of the mountain streams. Their hands were gentle, teaching him to grasp, to explore the textures of moss and stone, to feel the subtle differences between smooth pebbles and rough bark. Rhea often lingered nearby, presence quiet yet ever attentive, observing the slow unfolding of life with tender pride. Zeus grew quickly in his awareness of the world, though never hurried or forced. He noticed the small things first: the shimmer of sunlight on water, the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze, the gentle hum of insects hidden beneath moss. He would reach out, fingers brushing the mossy floor, and the nymphs would guide him with soft words. Notice how it moves, how it feels. The world speaks in whispers, not in shouts. Each lesson was a gentle invitation to wonder, a quiet encouragement to curiosity without haste. Ria would visit him often, bringing small offerings of fruit, soft cloths, and herbs that carried calming scents. She would sit beside him, watching as he explored, speaking softly. The earth is patient, Zeus. It will teach you everything you need to know, if you only pause and listen. Her voice was a warm, steady presence, a tether to calmness and certainty. The boy learned to trust not only the nymph's gentle guidance, but the quiet, unhurried rhythm of his mother's words. Sometimes the wind would stir through the cave's entrance, bringing with it faint hints of the world beyond, the distant peaks of mountains, the glimmer of sun on rivers far below, the rustle of trees swaying in unseen valleys. Zeus would gaze at the shifting light, curiosity glimmering in his eyes. Ria would smile softly, brushing his hair back with a gentle hand. "One day you will know these things more fully," she murmured. "For now, there is only learning quietly, slowly, as the world allows." The nymphs introduced him to the subtle patterns of life as well. They showed him how to follow the small tracks left by animals, how to sense the movement of water over stones, how to hear the differences between a whispering breeze and the faint patter of rain. Each day was filled with small discoveries, each step measured with care. Zeus learned patience naturally, understanding that the smallest things often carry the most meaning. Rhea often watched from a slight distance, ensuring his safety and well-being while allowing the nymphs to lead. She felt a quiet pride in the gentle strength growing within him, the balance of curiosity and calm, of awareness and patience. She knew that the prophecy lingered beyond these walls, but within the cave, life moved gently, and Zeus' earliest lessons were those of warmth, trust, and careful observation. Evenings in the cave were especially serene. The stream murmured in a slow, steady rhythm, the moss glowed faintly in the last traces of sunlight, and the nymphs would sing soft, lilting songs to lull the child into calm sleep. Rhea would sit nearby, hands folded in her lap, her eyes tracing the soft contours of his face as he rested. Sometimes she would whisper stories of gentle mornings, of soft winds, and the quiet beauty of mountains and forests, letting her words drift through the cave like a warm breeze. Zeus began to notice his own reflections in the world around him. He would reach toward light filtering through cracks in the stone, fascinated by the way it danced and shifted. He would press his fingers into moss, curious about its softness and the faint vibrations of life beneath. The nymphs guided him with patience, showing him how to move gently, to explore without rushing, to observe without disturbing. And through it all, Rhea's quiet teachings were never far. A touch, a word, a warm presence reminding him of the calm certainty that surrounded his life. Though the cave was hidden, Zeus was not isolated. The nymphs would tell him stories of distant valleys and rivers, of mountains he could see only in dreams, of gentle creatures that roamed the forests beyond. These stories were soft, without conflict, without fear, simply threads of wonder that expanded his imagination while maintaining the calm of his surroundings. Zeus would listen with wide eyes, absorbing each detail, his mind quietly mapping the world that one day he would move within fully. In this sheltered space, he learned the rhythms of trust and love, of patience and observation. He learned that life was not hurried, that discovery came gradually, and that the smallest gestures often held the deepest meaning. Rhea watched these lessons unfold with a gentle, knowing smile. She knew that the day would come when Zeus would step beyond the hidden cave, but she also knew that he would carry within him the careful, patient guidance of these early years. Night fell over the mountains, soft shadows pooling around the cave, the stars twinkling faintly through small openings. The stream continued its quiet murmur, the nymphs hummed soft lullabies, and Zeus drifted into sleep, his small chest rising and falling with gentle rhythm. Rhea rested nearby, her eyes reflecting the soft light, her heart quietly at peace. The world outside might carry challenges, the prophecy might loom, but for now, the hidden child was safe, nurtured in calm, and surrounded by love. And as the night deepened, with the whisper of leaves and the murmur of water all around, Rhea whispered softly to herself, a gentle promise carried on the wind. "You will grow, little one. Slowly, safely, always with love." The cave, the mountains, the nymphs, and the quiet earth itself seemed to echo her words, embracing the hidden child and cradling his earliest days in a cocoon of calm and gentle wonder. The morning light crept slowly over the mountain peaks, casting long, gentle shadows across the hidden cave where Zeus had spent his earliest days. The soft murmur of the stream outside echoed through the chamber, mixing with the faint rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds waking to the day. The air smelled of earth, moss, and the delicate sweetness of mountain blooms, carrying a calm sense of continuity in life. Zeus stirred from his sleep, stretching small arms and fingers as though testing the weight of the world around him. He blinked slowly, taking in the soft light filtering through cracks in the stone, the shimmer on the mossy ground, and the faint sparkle of water where the stream wound its gentle path. The nymphs were nearby, tending quietly to the cave, humming soft melodies that had become a familiar lullaby for the child. Today felt different, though nothing in the air had changed. Zeus' curiosity, small but persistent, nudged him toward the edges of the space he had known since his birth. He reached for a patch of moss at the cave's edge, feeling the soft texture beneath his fingers, marveling at the tiny vibrations of life hidden within. One of the nymphs, smiling softly, knelt beside him and guided his hands over the moss and the smooth stones, whispering gentle encouragement. "Notice how it moves under your touch, little one. Life is patient, and it responds softly to your care." Rhea appeared quietly, observing from a nearby alcove, her presence calm yet attentive. She sat with her hands folded, watching Zeus' small explorations, a soft smile playing across her lips. "The world is full of gentle lessons," she whispered, her voice a warm thread weaving through the quiet of the cave. "Take them slowly. Let each movement teach you, and let your heart follow the rhythm of the earth." Zeus paused for a moment, listening, his young mind absorbing the cadence of her words as naturally as the light filtered across the stones. The day unfolded in small, deliberate steps. Zeus began crawling toward the stream, his movements cautious but insistent. He reached the edge where water lapped softly over smooth stones, dipping tiny fingers into the cool flow. The sensation thrilled him. The water was alive with quiet motion, whispering stories of mountains, rocks, and distant valleys. The nymphs encouraged him gently, guiding him in the simplest observations. "See how it bends around the stones? How does it always keep moving, even when it seems still?" Zeus giggled softly, the sound echoing through the cave, as if the stream itself had responded to his delight. Rhea joined him at the stream's edge, kneeling carefully on the soft moss. She brushed a damp lock of hair from his forehead and whispered, "You are learning the rhythm of life, my little one. The world has its pace, and it is patient with those who move with care." Zeus' eyes followed her hand, his mind gradually connecting touch, motion, and gentle guidance. Even in these first small steps, he began to sense the quiet power that would one day define him, a steady strength that moved in harmony with observation and care. The nymphs led him further along the edges of the cave and its immediate surroundings, showing him small crevices in the stone, delicate wildflowers sprouting from cracks, and tiny insects moving quietly through the moss. Each discovery was met with soft encouragement, allowing him to marvel without haste. Zeus' laughter filled the cave like a gentle ripple, and Rhea felt a tender pride swell within her chest. Every movement, every touch, every moment of wonder was shaping him into the being she had envisioned, curious, patient, and aware. As the day wore on, the cave revealed new spaces for exploration. A small alcove high on a wall, reachable only with careful climbing, became a secret nook for Zeus to observe the stream and sunlight from a higher vantage point. The nymphs assisted gently, guiding his small hands and feet over the stone, always careful to allow him independence. Rhea watched silently, knowing that each cautious step was building his confidence, his awareness, and his gentle strength. By late afternoon, Zeus began to notice patterns in his world. He recognized that the stream always returned to the same stones, that sunlight shifted slowly across the cave, and that the nymph songs followed familiar rhythms. He began to anticipate soft events, a breeze brushing leaves, the faint trill of a distant bird, the gentle ripple of water over a stone. Rhea observed him with quiet wonder, seeing the early signs of the intelligence, patience, and subtle power that lay beneath his tender curiosity. Evenings in the cave were always calm, filled with soft lullabies and gentle light. Zeus lay on his mossy bed, his small hands still reaching toward the world he had explored during the day. Rhea sat nearby, humming softly, brushing her fingers lightly across his hair. "You are learning, little one," she whispered. Slowly, steadily, always with love. The cave itself seemed to respond, the walls holding the warmth of the day, the stream murmuring a lullaby, and the nymph's gentle presence wrapping him in calm and safety. Rhea reflected quietly on the days ahead. She knew that the prophecy loomed somewhere beyond the mountains, yet here, in the soft cocoon of the hidden cave, Zeus would grow in gentle strength. Each exploration, each touch, each small lesson planted a seed of understanding that would one day blossom into the awareness and power he would need. And she was patient, knowing that the careful shaping of these early years was more important than any hurried preparation. Night finally fell, draping the cave in soft shadows and a faint silver glow from the stars peeking through cracks above. The stream whispered a gentle, continuous song, the nymphs hummed softly, and Zeus drifted into sleep with his hands resting lightly on moss and stone. Rhea leaned close, brushing a tender kiss across his forehead. "You are safe," she whispered. "You are learning. You are growing. Always with care, always with love." The mountains around a hidden cave exhaled a quiet, steady calm, as though the earth itself was holding the child in protective embrace. And in that hush, Zeus slept, unaware yet of the larger world beyond, yet perfectly attuned to the gentle rhythms, the patient guidance, and the soft love that would shape every step of his life. Morning light seeped softly into the hidden cave, brushing the walls with faint gold and illuminating the delicate shimmer of moss and stone. The air carried the fresh scent of water and earth, and the soft murmur of the nearby stream flowed like a quiet lullaby. Zeus stirred from his sleep, stretching small arms and blinking sleepily at the gentle glow. His curiosity, which had begun to stir even in his earliest days, awakened fully with the soft warmth of dawn. The nymphs were already near, moving quietly through the cave as if their every step had been rehearsed by the rhythm of the earth itself. They hummed soft, gentle melodies, their voices blending with the murmur of the stream and the faint rustle of leaves outside the cave entrance. One of the nymphs knelt beside Zeus, holding a tiny woven basket filled with soft fruits and leaves. "Good morning, little one," she whispered, her smile warm and patient. "Today, you will explore more of the world around you." Zeus blinked and reached for the basket, his small fingers brushing the textures of the fruits and leaves. The colors fascinated him, the deep green of the leaves, the soft yellow and red of the fruits, the faint shimmer of moisture on their surfaces. The nymphs encouraged him gently, letting him explore each texture, each weight, each scent. "Notice how each one feels, how it moves in your hand," they said softly. "The world is full of quiet wonders, and you are learning them step by step." Rhea appeared shortly after, moving with her usual calm grace. She watched Zeus with a tender smile, her eyes tracing the careful movements of his small hands. "The world is patient," she whispered, her voice soft as the breeze. "It will teach you in its own time. You only need to notice, to touch, to feel." Zeus looked up at her, his eyes wide with curiosity and wonder, as though absorbing her words not only with his ears but with his very being. The morning passed with quiet exploration. Zeus crawled over soft moss and smooth stones, discovering hidden crevices and tiny plants growing in unexpected places. He reached toward the stream, feeling the cool water ripple over his fingers, fascinated by its constant, gentle motion. The nymphs guided him softly, showing him how to balance on uneven stones, how to follow the stream without slipping, and how to notice the subtle shifts in light and shadow around him. Playfulness began to emerge naturally. Zeus would clap his small hands when he discovered a brightly colored leaf, or when a drop of water from the stream splashed his fingers. The nymphs encouraged this delight, joining him in gentle games that taught both movement and awareness. They would roll small stones across the moss, showing how they curved and tumbled, letting Zeus mimic the motions with his tiny hands. Each interaction was a lesson in patience, observation, and wonder, wrapped in joy and laughter. Rhea often joined in these moments, her presence steady and calming. She would sit with Zeus, letting him climb onto her lap or rest against her chest as he played with small objects, always speaking in soft, rhythmic tones. "Notice the patterns," she would whisper. "Every shape, every color, every movement has its place. Watch carefully, feel gently, and you will understand." Zeus listened, his young mind absorbing the rhythm of her guidance, blending play with the subtle awareness of the world around him. By midday, Zeus began to experiment with more deliberate movements. He would reach higher towards sunlight filtering through cracks, stack small stones, or gently press leaves into the moss to see how they responded. Each new action was met with quiet encouragement from the nymphs and Rhea. They guided without interfering, letting him discover the joy of experimentation, the satisfaction of gentle success, and the patience of careful observation. The cave itself became a classroom for these small discoveries. Sunlight highlighted textures on the walls, streams of water provided constant gentle motion, and the soft earth beneath his hands responded to every touch. Zeus learned to move with awareness, to notice the smallest details, and to balance his curiosity with careful consideration. Rhea observed with quiet pride, seeing the early sparks of intelligence, playfulness, and gentle strength taking shape in her child. Evening brought a calm lull to the cave. The stream whispered its steady song, the nymphs hummed soft melodies, and Zeus rested against Rhea, small hands clutching a soft piece of moss he had found during the day. "You have learned much today," she whispered, brushing his hair back gently. "The world is full of small wonders, and you're noticing them all." Zeus yawned softly, his eyes half closed, a faint smile on his lips as the warmth and calm of the cave enveloped him. Night settled fully over the mountains, draping the cave in shadows and muted silver light. The stars twinkled softly through the cracks above, and the stream's gentle murmur carried the lullaby of the day into the night. Zeus drifted into sleep, the soft rhythm of his breath harmonizing with the murmur of water and the quiet presence of those who loved and guided him. Rhea watched him for a long moment, feeling the deep satisfaction of a day well spent, of curiosity nurtured, of gentle strength quietly emerging. She whispered to herself, a tender promise carried softly on the wind. "You will grow in wonder, little one." Slowly, gently, always with care and love. And the cave seemed to embrace her words, echoing the calm assurance that surrounded the hidden child and the world he was just beginning to understand. Morning light draped itself softly across the hidden cave, spilling over the mossy floors and illuminating the delicate shimmer of water from the winding stream. The air was rich with the scent of earth, wet stone, and faint blossoms that grew in hidden crevices. Zeus stirred from sleep, small fingers curling instinctively around the moss beneath him. His chest rose and fell gently, each breath a quiet echo of the rhythm of the world surrounding him. The nymphs were already moving about quietly, their gentle melodies weaving through the cave like the faintest whisper of wind through leaves. One nymph knelt beside Zeus, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. "Good morning, little one," she said softly. "Today you may notice new things about the world around you. Listen carefully, feel with patience, and let the rhythm guide you." Zeus blinked up at her, eyes wide with curiosity, and reached instinctively toward the shimmer of sunlight touching the stones. Even in these early days, Rhea noticed subtle signs that Zeus was different, that his small body and mind carried within them something extraordinary. He seemed to sense patterns that others might overlook, the quiet pull of the stream, the gentle sway of vines in the breeze, the shifting warmth of sunlight through cracks in the cave. He would pause mid-motion, staring at the movement of water or the dance of light on the moss, a small frown of concentration forming on his brow. The nymphs guided him gently, showing him how to touch the smooth stones and feel the subtle vibration of flowing water. Zeus experimented with small gestures, pressing a leaf lightly against a stone, tapping a pebble into the stream and watching its path, blowing softly on moss to see how it quivered. Each motion, each observation, seemed to awaken something inside him, a quiet awareness of connection and influence. The nymphs watched with soft smiles, allowing him to explore, never rushing, never correcting, only encouraging. Rhea appeared quietly, her eyes filled with calm pride. She knelt beside Zeus, brushing her fingers lightly over his hair. "You are learning, little one," she whispered. "The world moves gently, and so do you. Notice carefully, and you may discover things that seem impossible at first." Zeus looked at her, absorbing the warmth of her words, the certainty in her voice, and something within him stirred, a subtle spark that seemed to harmonize with the rhythm of the cave. As the day unfolded, Zeus began to experiment more boldly. He raised his small hands toward the flowing stream, and for a brief moment, a tiny ripple followed the movement of his fingers. He blinked in surprise, then looked to the nymphs and Rhea for reassurance. The nymphs smiled softly, nodding gently, letting him explore this emerging understanding of cause and effect. "The world responds, little one," Rhea murmured. "You are learning the quiet power that flows through everything." The nymphs continued to guide him, allowing him to interact with the environment in increasingly deliberate ways. He would move small stones, press lightly on the moss, and watch as water shifted in response to his gestures. Each subtle success brought quiet delight, a soft laugh that seemed to ripple through the cave like the gentle murmur of the stream. Even the walls of the cave, the hidden moss, and the flowing water seemed to resonate with the gentle curiosity and emerging awareness of the hidden child. Rhea observed quietly, tracing the lines of his small hands, the movement of his eyes, and the soft furrow of concentration in his brow. She recognized the earliest signs of the strength that lay beneath his tender body, the emerging power that would one day define him. Yet she did not rush, did not interfere. Instead, she allowed the cave, the stream, the moss, and the nymph's guidance to nurture his understanding gently, teaching him patience alongside capability. Evenings were serene and quiet. The sun dipped low, casting soft amber light across the cave. The stream murmured steadily, the nymphs hummed their gentle songs, and Zeus lay against Rhea, fingers tracing the soft moss beneath him, eyes wide with lingering curiosity. "You are learning the rhythm of life," she whispered, pressing a soft kiss to his forehead. "And in time, you will learn the rhythm of the power within you. For now, patience and care will guide you." The stars began to peek through cracks in the cave ceiling, twinkling faintly as if echoing Rhea's words. Zeus' small hands twitched slightly as he slept, a hint of the quiet energy flowing within him, ready to awaken with gentle guidance and observation. Rhea watched him with serene pride, aware that each small day, each careful lesson, each moment of curiosity and play was nurturing the calm awareness and subtle strength that would define him. Night settled over the mountains, wrapping the hidden cave in soft shadows and muted silver light. The stream's steady murmur blended with the gentle hum of the nymph's lullabies, and the cave seemed to hold its breath in quiet protection of the hidden child. Zeus slept peacefully, his small body and mind attuned to the soft rhythms of the world, his quiet power slowly stirring beneath the calm surface. And as Rhea rested nearby, brushing a gentle hand over his hair, she whispered softly to herself and to the cave alike, "You will grow, little one, slowly, safely, always guided by love and care." The cave, the mountains, and the murmuring stream seemed to echo her words, holding the hidden child in a cocoon of calm, gentle wonder and quiet, emerging strength. The morning arrived slowly in the hidden cave, with sunlight spilling over the mossy floor in soft, golden streams. The air smelled faintly of wet earth and fragrant blossoms tucked into crevices along the cave walls. The stream outside murmured its quiet song, carrying gentle ripples through the shadows of the cave and reflecting the sunlight in tiny, dancing patterns across the stones. Zeus stirred, small fingers curling in the moss as if feeling the heartbeat of the earth itself. The nymphs were already near, moving silently, their steps barely disturbing the soft moss beneath them. Their soft humming blended with the murmur of the stream, creating a lullaby that had accompanied Zeus since his first days in the cave. Today, however, he seemed more aware, more deliberate in his movements. He reached toward the moss, pressing lightly, then withdrew his hand and watched, his eyes wide with quiet fascination. He seemed to notice how the moss bent under his touch, how the shadows shifted slightly as he moved, and how the sunlight glimmered differently across stones he touched. One of the nymphs knelt beside him, brushing a soft hand across his hair. "Do you feel it, little one?" she whispered. "The world responds to your touch, gently, softly. Notice how it moves, how it shifts. You are learning quietly, carefully, and the earth will show you its rhythm." Zeus reached again, pressing lightly on a stone at the edge of the stream. To his astonishment, the water seemed to move in response, curling gently around the stone as if guided by his hand. A small laugh escaped his lips, soft and delighted, echoing quietly through the cave. Rhea arrived, stepping lightly over the soft moss. She knelt beside him, brushing his damp hair from his forehead. "Patience, little one," she whispered, her voice as gentle as the morning light. "The world is patient, and it responds to care. You will learn not to rush, but to guide slowly, with thought and love." Zeus nodded in his own way, tiny hands moving again, this time with intention. The sunlight glimmered in the water as he shifted stones and pressed on moss, and the stream seemed to bend softly, almost playfully, around him. As the day wore on, Zeus began to experiment more boldly. He pressed lightly on the surface of the water, and the ripples spread gently farther than before. He brushed leaves into the stream, fascinated by how they danced across the surface. He leaned over the mossy stones, touching them delicately, feeling the textures, the softness, the subtle give of life beneath his fingers. Each small act was a discovery, a quiet thrill, a gentle realization that his touch could influence the world around him without haste or violence. The nymphs guided him through each moment with patience. "Notice how it bends, how it moves," they whispered, encouraging both observation and gentle experimentation. "The world is alive, little one, and it responds to care, not force." Zeus began to combine movements, shifting a leaf here, pressing a stone there, and watching as the sunlight and water interacted with his actions. Each motion was deliberate yet playful, an early glimpse of the balance between curiosity and quiet power that would one day define him. Rhea watched closely, a soft smile warming her face. She saw the beginnings of understanding, the first signs of the subtle energy that flowed within him. Yet she did not interfere, did not rush him. Instead, she allowed him space to explore, to feel, to notice the gentle responses of the world around him. She whispered softly, "You are learning, little one." Slowly, gently, with care, her hand brushed lightly over his shoulder, grounding him in warmth and calm. By midday, Zeus was moving with confidence. He climbed small rocks along the stream, testing his balance, pressing lightly on moss-covered stones, and laughing quietly when the water rippled in surprising patterns. He began to anticipate responses, the way the stream would curve around a stone, the way sunlight would glint across the water, the subtle sway of vines overhead. Each anticipation brought delight, a gentle thrill that made his small chest rise with quiet excitement. The nymphs watched with soft smiles, letting him explore, guiding without taking control, allowing the hidden child to understand the connection between touch, movement, and consequence. Rhea observed from a short distance, feeling her heart swell with tender pride. She could sense the first stirrings of his latent strength, the way his small movements could influence his environment in subtle, controlled ways. And she understood that patience, calm, and careful nurturing would be the key to helping him grow in both wisdom and quiet power. Evenings in the cave were always serene. The sunlight faded slowly, casting amber light through the cave entrance, and the stream murmured its continuous, soothing song. Zeus lay curled on soft moss, fingers brushing leaves he had gathered during the day, eyes wide as he watched shadows shift. Rhea knelt beside him, softly brushing his hair back. "You are learning more than you know," she whispered. "Patience, care, and attention will guide you. And your strength will follow naturally, little one, like the water around the stones." The stars began to pierce the sky through the cracks in the cave, twinkling faintly above the hidden world. Zeus drifted into sleep, small fingers twitching slightly as if replaying the gentle movements of the day. The nymphs hummed a soft lullaby, the stream whispered steadily, and the cave seemed to wrap itself around the hidden child, cradling him in warmth, care, and the soft beginnings of power. Morning light spilled softly through the cracks in the cave ceiling, painting the mossy floor with warm, golden patches. The air carried the faint scent of wet stone and blooming flowers tucked in hidden corners. The stream outside murmured its quiet, steady song, echoing through the cave as though whispering encouragement to the hidden child. Zeus stirred, tiny fingers brushing against the soft moss beneath him, eyes blinking sleepily as he began to notice the subtle rhythms of the day. The nymphs were already present, moving with gentle grace across the cave floor. Their humming wove a quiet melody through the still morning, harmonizing with the murmuring water. One knelt beside Zeus, offering him a small stone, smooth and round. "Observe it," she whispered softly. "Feel its weight, notice its balance. See how it responds when you move it gently. The world has patterns, little ones, and each one tells a story." Zeus turned the stone in his small hands, noticing how it rolled differently across the moss, how sunlight made its surface glimmer, how its edges pressed into the soft earth beneath. He pressed it lightly against the stream, watching the ripples spread outward in quiet, measured arcs. His eyes widened in delight. He had seen similar effects before, yet today he felt a new sense of understanding. The world around him responded in patterns, subtle and predictable, waiting to be noticed. Rhea appeared quietly, her presence calm and warm. She knelt beside Zeus, brushing her hand gently over his hair. The world is full of these patterns, she whispered. Flowing water, shifting sunlight, the bending of leaves in the wind. All of it follows gentle rhythms, and you can learn from them if you pay attention. Zeus looked up at her, his small mind absorbing her words, connecting them to the subtle movements he had observed in the stream, the moss, and the sunlight. Encouraged by the nymphs and Rhea, Zeus began to experiment more deliberately. He rolled stones across the moss, noticing how their paths curved and shifted depending on the angle and force of his touch. He pressed leaves into the stream, watching them follow currents and bend around obstacles. Even the sunlight seemed to catch differently on each stone and leaf, dancing across surfaces in ways that mirrored the flow of water and air. Each experiment taught him something new about the delicate balance of his hidden world. The nymphs guided him with quiet patience, pointing out small details without interrupting his exploration. "Notice how the water curves," one whispered. "See how it avoids certain stones and moves around others. There is a gentle order here, and you are beginning to understand it." Zeus watched, fascinated, and reached out to shift a small stone. The water flowed differently than before, a subtle, almost imperceptible change, yet it thrilled him. His small fingers tingled with a quiet recognition that his touch could influence the world around him in gentle, measured ways. Rhea observed silently, a soft smile warming her face. She could sense the beginnings of control, the first stirrings of power carefully tempered by curiosity and patience. "You are learning," she murmured, her voice a soft thread in the still cave. "Your touch is small, but it is not without effect. Notice carefully, act gently, and you will grow in strength and understanding." Zeus nodded, eyes shining, fingers moving with intention as he experimented with stones, water, and moss. By afternoon, Zeus began to notice larger patterns. The way the sunlight shifted across the cave floor, the subtle sway of vines at the entrance, the quiet murmur of the stream, all seemed connected. He reached toward a patch of sunlight, pressing a stone into its edge, and watched the glimmer of light dance differently on the moss. The nymphs and Rhea watched him, offering gentle guidance but never taking over, allowing him to feel the satisfaction of discovery, the gentle thrill of understanding. Evenings in the cave were calm and soft. The stream whispered its familiar song. The nymphs hummed lullabies, and Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small hands clutching a smooth stone he had found during the day. "You are noticing patterns," she whispered, brushing her fingers lightly over his hair. "The world moves in rhythms, and you are learning to move with it. Patience and care will guide you, little one." Slowly, gently, always with love, the stars began to pierce the night sky, twinkling softly through the cracks above the hidden cave. Zeus' small chest rose and fell with steady rhythm, fingers twitching slightly as if replaying the gentle experiments of the day. The cave, the mountains, the murmuring stream, and the quiet presence of the nymphs wrapped him in a cocoon of calm, wonder, and slowly emerging understanding. Rhea remained beside him, her hand resting lightly over his small shoulder. "You will grow, little one," she whispered, her voice a soft caress in the still night. Slowly, carefully, gently, always in tune with the quiet patterns of the world and with the gentle power within you. In the hidden cave, the mountains, and the murmuring stream seemed to echo her words, embracing the child in patient protection, gentle discovery, and the soft anticipation of the life he was quietly beginning to understand. The morning light filtered softly through the cracks in the cave, painting the walls and floor with long golden streaks. The moss underfoot glowed faintly, damp from the morning dew and warm from the sun's gentle touch. The stream outside murmured its quiet song, threading through the stillness of the cave like a soft lullaby. Zeus stirred, small hands brushing the moss, eyes opening slowly as he took in the familiar, comforting surroundings. The nymphs were already present, moving quietly in the gentle light. Today, however, there was a subtle difference. They had brought with them small pebbles, leaves, and thin sticks, placing them carefully around the cave. "Today, little one whispered softly, we will learn together. Notice how each piece can move and how we can work with it gently, side by side." Zeus' eyes widened with curiosity. He reached for a smooth pebble, feeling its weight in his tiny hand. The nymph beside him took another pebble and placed it near him with the softest encouragement, showing him how to align the two to form a small pattern on moss. He tilted his head, watching carefully, and then mimicked the movement, pressing his pebble gently against the other. A quiet giggle escaped him when he saw the soft symmetry they created together. Rhea appeared quietly, moving with her usual calm grace. She knelt beside Zeus, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "You see how we can work together," she whispered, her voice warm and gentle. "Even the smallest gestures can create harmony when we act in kindness and patience. Notice the rhythm between us and the quiet way the world responds." Zeus' small fingers trembled slightly with concentration as he adjusted his pebble, learning to synchronize with the soft movements of the nymph beside him. The morning passed in this quiet, deliberate rhythm. Zeus discovered that coordination could be a kind of play, a gentle dance of hands and attention. He moved sticks to guide the flow of water in a shallow stream, watched leaves catch the current, and noticed how the nymph's motions influenced the tiny waves. Each subtle experiment brought delight, a soft, resonant joy that filled the cave like a warm breeze. The nymphs encouraged him gently, praising small successes and guiding with quiet patience. "See how the water curves when you guide it carefully," one whispered. "Notice how the leaves follow your movement." Harmony comes from observation, understanding, and gentle intention. Zeus tilted his head thoughtfully, observing the interaction between his actions, the environment, and the nymph's responses. Slowly, he began to anticipate patterns, adjusting his movements to work in tandem with theirs. Rhea watched him closely, her heart full of gentle pride. She could see the early signs of cooperation and awareness, the first stirrings of understanding that the world responded not only to touch but also to intention guided by care. "Harmony," she whispered softly, "is a gentle balance. When you act with patience and kindness, the world follows." Zeus listened, absorbing her words, his small hands moving deliberately as he experimented with the coordinated placement of stones, sticks, and leaves. By midday, Zeus had discovered the subtle joy of shared effort. He pressed a small stick lightly against the water, watching as a leaf followed the current while the nymph nudged another stone. Together, they created a tiny, flowing pattern across the stream, and Zeus laughed softly, delighted by the quiet success. The cave seemed to respond with its own gentle rhythm. The moss glimmered faintly, the water rippled softly, and the air carried the faint scent of earth and flowers as though celebrating the gentle collaboration. Evening descended softly, painting the cave in warm amber and muted silver light. The stream murmured steadily, the nymphs hummed quiet lullabies, and Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small hands clasping a smooth pebble he had guided into place that day. "You are learning the harmony of touch, little one," Rhea whispered, brushing her fingers lightly over his hair. "The world responds to care, patience, and collaboration. Notice it, feel it, and carry it with you." The stars appeared, twinkling faintly through cracks above, their soft light reflected in the stream and in Zeus' wide, curious eyes. He yawned, stretching small fingers, and snuggled closer to Rhea. The cave, the stream, the nymph's gentle presence, and the soft scent of earth and moss wrapped him in a cocoon of calm, nurturing guidance and quiet wonder. The morning light filtered lazily through the cave's cracks, painting the mossy floor with soft beams of gold. The stream outside whispered its gentle song, threading through the cool shadows with a soothing rhythm. The air carried the faint scent of earth, damp moss, and delicate blossoms tucked in hidden corners. Zeus stirred from sleep, small fingers brushing over the soft moss beneath him, eyes opening slowly as he took in the familiar comfort of the hidden cave. The nymphs moved quietly, their soft hums blending with the murmur of the stream. Today, however, they had arranged small stones and leaves in gentle patterns around the cave, creating a playground for experimentation and observation. "Notice the flow," one whispered softly to Zeus. "See how the water moves, how the sunlight dances on the moss, how the leaves respond. Your touch, gentle and patient, can guide them in ways that delight the eye and the heart." Zeus reached for a smooth stone and pressed it lightly against the stream. To his quiet amazement, the water curved gently around it, creating a tiny ripple that traveled across the surface. He watched intently, eyes shining, and nudged another stone into place. The stream adjusted naturally, the ripples weaving through the small obstacles as though aware of his gentle guidance. A soft laugh escaped him, delicate and bright, echoing faintly through the cave. Rhea appeared quietly, kneeling beside him and brushing her fingers gently across his hair. "You are learning the rhythm of the world, little one," she whispered. "The water, the moss, the sunlight, they all respond to patience, care, and gentle intention. Notice how even the smallest touch creates change when guided by thought and kindness." Zeus' small hands moved deliberately now, adjusting stones, nudging leaves, and watching the subtle effects unfold with wide, fascinated eyes. The nymphs encouraged him, pointing out delicate patterns in the sunlight as it fell through the cracks, the way the stream flowed around obstacles, and how moss bent softly under gentle pressure. "See how each movement affects the other," one whispered. "Everything is connected, and everything responds. The world is patient, and you are learning its gentle language." Zeus leaned forward, fingers brushing against the soft moss and smooth stones, eyes fixed on the flowing water. Each subtle act of touch felt like a quiet conversation, a soft exchange with a natural world that filled him with delight. By midday, Zeus' curiosity had grown bolder. He experimented with pressing leaves into the stream in specific patterns, watching as water carry them along carefully, creating fleeting arrangements that shifted with each ripple. He noticed how the sunlight caught on the moving leaves, scattering reflections across the cave walls. The nymphs guided him gently, encouraging observation without interference. "Patience, little one," they whispered. "Move slowly, notice carefully, and the world will show you its quiet wonders." Rhea observed with calm pride, sensing the early stirrings of power tempered by care and curiosity. She reached out to adjust a stone slightly for him, showing how subtle guidance could enhance the effect without taking over his exploration. "You see," she murmured softly, "even small hands can create harmony when guided by attention and care. Your touch is gentle, but it is powerful, and your mind is learning the rhythm of influence." The afternoon passed in quiet, immersive play. Zeus experimented with layering leaves, arranging small stones, and nudging the water to flow along new paths. He discovered patterns, observed consequences, and felt a growing sense of wonder at the small, gentle control he could exert without haste or force. Each success brought a quiet thrill, a soft smile, and an increasing confidence in his emerging understanding of the cave's rhythms. Evenings in the hidden cave were always serene. The sunlight faded slowly, leaving warm amber and muted silver across the moss and stones. The stream murmured its continuous song, the nymphs hummed soft lullabies, and Zeus rested against Rhea, small hands still brushing leaves and pebbles he had arranged. "You are learning more than you know, little one," she whispered, pressing a tender kiss to his forehead. "Every movement, every touch, every small experiment teaches you the rhythm of care, attention, and gentle influence." As the stars appeared, twinkling softly through the cracks above, Zeus' small fingers twitched slightly in his sleep, recalling the gentle manipulations of water, leaves, and light he had practiced during the day. The cave, the stream, the moss, and the nymph's quiet presence wrapped him in a cocoon of calm, curiosity, and slowly emerging awareness. Rhea rested her hand lightly on his shoulder, whispering softly to herself and to the hidden world. "You will grow, little one. Slowly, gently, patiently, always in tune with the quiet rhythm of the world and the gentle strength within you." And as Zeus drifted fully into sleep, the cave seemed to respond, holding him in quiet protection, soft wonder, and the gentle anticipation of the remarkable life quietly unfolding before him. The morning light seeped gently through the cracks in the cave ceiling, spilling golden streaks across the soft moss and smooth stones. The stream murmured its constant song, curling around rocks and weaving through shadows with quiet persistence. The air carried the faint scent of earth, damp moss, and blossoms tucked into hidden corners. Zeus stirred, tiny fingers brushing the soft moss beneath him, eyes opening to the familiar warmth of his hidden world. The nymphs were already near, moving softly in the golden light. Today, they had arranged small sticks, leaves, and stones along the edges of the stream, creating a delicate playground for discovery. "Notice how the water moves," one whispered gently. "See how sunlight touches the stones. Everything has its rhythm, and you can learn to follow it, little one." Zeus' small fingers twitched with anticipation as he reached for a smooth stone, placing it carefully in the shallow water. The stream curved delicately around it, ripples spreading outward like gentle waves of light. Rhea appeared quietly, kneeling beside him. She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead and whispered softly, "The world responds to gentle attention. Your touch can guide it, your mind can notice its patterns, and your heart can delight in the quiet harmony that flows from both." Zeus tilted his head, eyes wide, as he pressed another stone into the stream, observing how the water moved differently around the new obstacle. He giggled softly at the gentle ripples, his excitement measured, curious, and calm. The nymphs encouraged him to experiment with layering small leaves in the water, showing how patterns could emerge when careful thought and gentle motion guided his actions. Zeus reached with small hands, nudging leaves along the stream, watching as they caught on stones and flowed in new directions. His eyes followed each movement carefully, noticing the subtle dances of light on water, the way the moss bent beneath his fingers, and the faint shimmer of sunlight on smooth stones. By midday, Zeus began to coordinate his actions with those of the nymphs. Together, they arranged small sticks to guide the flow of the stream, creating gentle eddies and patterns that delighted him. He noticed how slight changes in his touch altered the ripple of water or the sway of leaves. The nymphs whispered gentle praise, encouraging observation and patient experimentation. "You see how even the smallest movement can change the path," one said. "Every action matters when it is guided with care." Rhea watched quietly, a soft smile warming her face. She saw the careful balance of curiosity and patience, play and observation. Zeus' small fingers moved with increasing confidence, nudging stones, arranging leaves, and gently influencing the water to follow patterns he was beginning to anticipate. His delight was soft but radiant, echoing in tiny bursts of laughter that mingled with the gentle hum of the nymphs and the murmuring stream. The afternoon stretched lazily through the cave. Sunlight shifted across the floor, illuminating new corners and revealing hidden textures in moss, stone, and flowing water. Zeus pressed lightly on a small cluster of stones, noticing how the stream adjusted, how sunlight glinted differently, and how leaves followed his motions. Each discovery, however small, brought a quiet thrill. The nymphs guided him subtly, pointing out the gentle relationships between motion, balance, and effect, allowing him to explore and feel the harmony of cause and consequence. Evening fell with a soft hush. The sunlight faded, leaving amber and silver across the moss and stones. The stream whispered steadily, the nymphs hummed gentle lullabies, and Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small fingers brushing the smooth stones he had arranged. "You are learning, little one," she whispered, pressing her hand lightly over his shoulder. "Every movement, every touch, every gentle experiment teaches the rhythm of care, observation, and harmony." The stars appeared, twinkling softly through cracks above, reflecting in the stream and catching in Zeus' wide, curious eyes. He yawned, stretching his small fingers, and rested quietly against Rhea. The cave, the stream, the moss, and the gentle presence of the nymphs enveloped him, a cocoon of calm, wonder, and slowly emerging understanding of the world and his ability to interact with it with soft, intentional influence. The morning light arrived slowly, spilling through cracks and illuminating the mossy floor of the hidden cave with warm, golden hues. The gentle murmur of the stream outside threaded through the shadows, its quiet song echoing softly across the smooth stones and soft moss. The air was thick with the earthy scent of damp stone, moss, and delicate blossoms tucked into hidden corners. Zeus stirred, stretching small limbs and opening bright, curious eyes to the familiar warmth of the cave. Today, there was a subtle difference in the air. The nymphs had prepared a path toward the outer edges of the hidden cave, where the rock walls gave way to small openings that hinted at the world beyond. "Today, little one whispered, her voice as soft as a breeze, "you will see more. Notice the way the light shifts, the sounds change, and the air feels different. Every corner has its own story." Zeus crawled toward the small opening, tiny fingers brushing over the soft moss and smooth stones, his movements careful and deliberate. He paused at the edge, feeling the cool draft that seeped through the cracks. The air carried scents new to him, the faint tang of pine, the warm earth of the mountainside, and the soft floral notes from hidden blooms just outside the cave. He leaned closer, curiosity sparkling in his eyes, and reached out to touch the sunlight streaming through the narrow opening. It felt warm on his small fingers, a quiet, comforting heat that contrasted with the cool shadows inside the cave. Rhea appeared beside him, kneeling softly on the moss. She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead and whispered, "The world beyond the cave moves differently, little one. Listen, watch, and feel. There is a rhythm here, too, and you are learning its quiet song." Zeus nodded, pressing a small hand against the rough stone edge of the cave opening. He noticed how it felt warmer where the sun touched and cooler in the shade. He listened intently to the distant sounds, the faint rustle of leaves, the whisper of wind through the trees, and the soft trickle of water from an unseen stream outside. Encouraged by the nymphs and Rhea, Zeus began to explore more boldly. He nudged small stones toward the edge of the sunlight, watching how shadows shifted and merged with the soft moss inside the cave. He pressed leaves lightly against the warm stone and noticed the faint way sunlight highlighted their veins, creating tiny glowing patterns. Each motion, each observation, carried the quiet thrill of discovery, the gentle joy of learning without hurry or pressure. The nymphs guided him subtly, pointing out delicate details without taking over. "See how the sunlight moves across the stone," one whispered. "Notice how the air feels different here, how the shadows stretch and shrink. Everything responds, little one, when you pay attention." Zeus tilted his head, absorbing each nuance, his small hands moving slowly and carefully, his eyes tracing the interplay of light, shadow, and moss in a quiet, attentive dance. By midday, Zeus' confidence had grown. He shifted small pebbles to redirect faint rivulets of water that had found their way through the cracks, creating gentle channels that mingled with the stream inside the cave. He experimented with nudging leaves into sunlight, observing how they shimmered differently depending on angle and placement. The nymphs encouraged him softly, praising each observation, each small discovery. "Every choice matters, little one murmured. "Notice carefully, and the world will share its secrets." Rhea observed with calm pride, sensing the first stirrings of intentional influence. She knelt beside him, brushing a soft hand over his shoulder. "The world is patient, little one," she whispered. "Every stone, leaf, and ray of sunlight responds to attention, care, and gentle guidance. Your touch is small, but your awareness is growing, and that is the beginning of quiet strength." Zeus' eyes widened, his tiny fingers moving with increased deliberation, exploring patterns of light, shadow, moss, and flowing water. As afternoon stretched lazily over the mountains, Zeus discovered new interactions. He pressed lightly against soft patches of moss near the cave's edge, feeling the subtle give beneath his fingers. He nudged stones to change the flow of tiny streams, noticed how sunlight shifted as he leaned forward, and observed the delicate balance of natural patterns outside the cave. Each experiment filled him with wonder, a quiet thrill that mingled with the serene guidance of Rhea and the gentle presence of the nymphs. Evening arrived softly, draping the cave in muted amber and silver. The stream whispered its steady song, the nymphs hummed gentle lullabies, and Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small hands brushing the moss and pebbles he had carefully arranged. "You are learning, little one," she whispered, brushing his hair softly. "The world beyond the cave responds to observation, care, and gentle touch. Every new corner teaches patience and attention, and you are noticing its rhythm." As stars began to twinkle through cracks above, Zeus yawned and snuggled closer to Rhea. His small fingers twitched slightly, recalling the gentle manipulations of light, water, and moss he had explored that day. The hidden cave, the murmuring stream, the attentive nymphs, and the cool, fragrant air from the world beyond wrapped him in calm, protection, and quiet anticipation. Rhea pressed her hand lightly over him, whispering softly, "You will grow, little one. Slowly, gently, patiently, always in tune with the quiet patterns of the world and the gentle strength within you." And as Zeus drifted fully into sleep, the cave seemed to embrace him, holding him in soft wonder, careful guidance, and the serene promise of all the quiet discoveries yet to come. The morning light filtered softly through the cave cracks, casting warm, golden beams across the moss and stones. The air was rich with the scent of damp earth, moss, and the faint sweetness of hidden blooms. The gentle murmur of the stream outside mingled with the soft rustle of leaves, creating a quiet, harmonious rhythm. Zeus stirred, tiny fingers brushing over the soft moss beneath him, eyes opening to the familiar warmth and calm of his hidden world. The nymphs were already near, moving gracefully across the cave floor. Today, they had prepared small arrangements of stones, leaves, and twigs near the outer edge, where sunlight spilled in and air from the mountains whispered softly. Notice how each movement changes the world around you, one whispered. Even the smallest touch has an effect, and every effect has a pattern. Zeus crawled toward the sunlit opening, small hands brushing over moss and smooth stones. He pressed lightly on a cluster of pebbles, watching the tiny shifts ripple through the arrangement. The sunlight caught on each stone differently, creating soft reflections that danced across the cave walls. His eyes widened with delight. He had begun to understand. Every action, no matter how small, created change. Rhea knelt beside him, her hand brushing softly over his hair. "The world is full of gentle patterns, little one," she whispered. "Notice how one touch moves another, how sunlight reflects and water flows. Cause and effect are everywhere. Learning them is learning harmony." Zeus nodded thoughtfully, pressing a stone slightly into the moss and observing how it influenced the flow of water in the shallow stream that edged the cave. The nymphs encouraged him to experiment further. Zeus nudged a leaf into the sunlight, watching it float on a thin trickle of water. He pressed a small twig to guide the current, observing the subtle ripples that spread across the stream. Each gentle action produced a quiet, satisfying response. He laughed softly, delighted at the small, visible changes he could create, each one echoing through the calm cave. By midday, Zeus' awareness had grown more deliberate. He began to anticipate outcomes, moving stones and leaves with gentle precision to create specific patterns in the flowing water. He watched shadows shift as sunlight touched each surface differently. The nymphs guided him quietly, praising careful observation and gentle experimentation. "See how your touch shapes the world," one whispered. "Notice, and the patterns will become clear. Everything responds when you move with care." Rhea observed with calm pride, sensing the beginnings of intentional influence. She leaned close and murmured softly, "You are learning the quiet power of awareness, little one. Each movement, each gentle touch, teaches the rhythm of the world and your place within it." Zeus' small fingers moved carefully, adjusting stones and leaves, testing the cause and effect of each gesture. He noticed subtle interactions he hadn't seen before, the way water curved around moss, the way sunlight reflected on smooth stones, the faint movement of leaves in the gentle breeze. Afternoon stretched lazily over the cave. Zeus experimented with nudging pebbles into the stream to redirect tiny rivulets, observing the resulting ripples. He arranged leaves and twigs in deliberate sequences, delighting at how each small placement influenced the overall flow. The nymphs encouraged him softly, their voices a gentle chorus of guidance. "You see the patterns forming, little one whispered. "Every choice matters. Every gentle action creates harmony." Evening arrived slowly, wrapping the cave in soft amber and muted silver light. The stream murmured steadily, the nymphs hummed their gentle lullabies, and Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small hands brushing over the stones, leaves, and moss he had arranged. "You are learning more than you realize," Rhea whispered, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "Every movement, every experiment teaches the rhythm of cause and effect, and you are beginning to understand the gentle power you hold." As stars began to twinkle through cracks above, Zeus yawned, stretching his small fingers and curling closer to Rhea. His mind replayed the quiet discoveries of the day, the shifting water, dancing sunlight, bending moss, and gentle ripple of leaves in the stream. The cave, the murmuring stream, the attentive nymphs, and the soft mountain air wrapped him in calm, gentle protection and quiet wonder. Rhea pressed her hand lightly over him, whispering softly, "You will grow, little one. Slowly, gently, with patience, love, and awareness. The world responds to your care, and your quiet strength is beginning to bloom." And as Zeus drifted into sleep, the cave seemed to embrace him, holding him in calm curiosity, soft delight, and the quiet promise of the discoveries still to come. Morning arrived softly, brushing warm, golden light across the cave floor and illuminating the moss stones and scattered leaves in gentle splashes. The stream outside whispered steadily, its flowing song blending with the faint rustle of leaves and the distant hum of hidden blooms. The air carried the rich scent of damp earth and moss, a calm fragrance that seemed to cradle Zeus as he stirred, small fingers brushing the soft moss beneath him, eyes opening to the familiar world. Today, the nymphs had arranged a small, intricate scene near the sunlit edge of the cave: stones, twigs, leaves, and shallow channels of water. Notice how the parts work together, one whispered softly. Each element responds when you touch it, and together they create a quiet harmony. See if you can guide them gently. Zeus crawled toward the arrangement, eyes wide with curiosity. He pressed a small stone into the water, watching the ripples interact with the gentle currents and leaves floating nearby. He nudged a twig to guide a leaf along a particular path, observing how it curved gracefully around a stone. Each small motion influenced the others, creating a delicate, flowing pattern. He laughed softly, delighted at the subtle choreography he could create. Rhea knelt beside him, brushing his hair gently from his forehead. "The world is full of quiet dances, little one," she whispered. "Even small gestures can create a pattern if you pay attention. See how the water, stones, and leaves move together. Notice the rhythm and let your touch guide it." Zeus' small fingers moved with care, adjusting pebbles and twigs, nudging leaves, and watching the gentle ripples merge, separate, and flow again. Each observation brought a quiet thrill, a soft satisfaction in understanding the subtle interplay of the elements. The nymphs guided him without taking over, pointing out small shifts in water flow or the gentle tilt of a leaf in sunlight. "See how the light reflects differently on each stone," one whispered. "Notice how the water bends and curves around each obstacle. Everything is connected, little one. Observe, and you can guide it gently." Zeus leaned forward, pressing lightly on a stone, and watched as the water responded, weaving smoothly around leaves and twigs. His small chest rose with quiet excitement as he realized how his touch could influence multiple elements at once. By midday, Zeus' confidence had grown. He began to experiment with coordinating several elements simultaneously, nudging stones and twigs in precise sequences to guide water and leaves along gentle pathways. He noticed patterns in sunlight, the way shadows shifted with movement, and the subtle sway of moss under his fingers. The nymphs encouraged each experiment with soft words of praise, emphasizing careful observation and patient guidance. Rhea watched quietly, her heart full of gentle pride. She could see the beginnings of intentional coordination, the early stirrings of understanding that actions, even small ones, could create harmonious patterns across multiple elements. "Harmony," she whispered, "comes from noticing, adjusting, and caring. The world responds to patience, little one, and your gentle touch can guide it." Zeus nodded, eyes shining, fingers moving deliberately as he explored increasingly complex patterns in water, stones, leaves, and moss. Afternoon stretched across the hidden cave, warm light shifting slowly, revealing new textures in moss, stone, and flowing water. Zeus experimented with arranging leaves to catch sunlight, nudging stones to redirect small streams, and adjusting twigs to guide ripples. Each coordinated motion brought a soft thrill, a quiet delight, and a deepening understanding of the subtle interplay between observation, touch, and result. The cave seemed to hum with calm energy, the murmuring stream reflecting the soft patterns he created. Evening arrived gently, casting amber and silver light across the cave floor. The stream murmured its steady song, the nymphs hummed their soft lullabies, and Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small hands brushing the moss and leaves he had arranged into intricate patterns. "You are learning more than you know," Rhea whispered, pressing a gentle kiss to his forehead. "Every touch, every adjustment, every careful observation teaches you the rhythm of harmony, cause and effect, and gentle influence." As stars twinkled softly through cracks above, Zeus yawned, stretching small fingers, and snuggled closer to Rhea. The cave, the stream, the moss, and the gentle presence of the nymphs wrapped him in calm, quiet wonder, and the serene awareness of his growing ability to guide patterns in the hidden world. Rhea rested her hand lightly on his shoulder, whispering softly, "You will grow, little one. Slowly, gently, patiently. Every careful action, every soft observation will teach you the quiet strength within. Harmony will always follow your care." And as Zeus drifted into sleep, the hidden cave seemed to embrace him, holding him in gentle protection, soft discovery, and the quiet promise of even more subtle patterns yet to explore. The morning sunlight spilled through the cave cracks, soft and warm, touching every mossy surface and stone with a gentle glow. The stream outside whispered quietly, weaving through smooth rocks and mossy banks, its song blending with the faint rustle of hidden blooms and distant leaves swaying in the light mountain breeze. The air smelled of damp earth, soft moss, and the sweetness of small hidden flowers. Zeus stirred, tiny fingers brushing the moss beneath him as he opened his eyes slowly, taking in the quiet, familiar sanctuary of his hidden world. Today felt different to him. There was a gentle invitation in the sunlight, a subtle shift in the air that encouraged curiosity. The nymphs were near, their movements soft and fluid, humming faint, gentle melodies that merged with the stream's quiet song. Today, little one whispered, you may explore more freely, notice subtle interactions, and let your hands guide the patterns you see. Observe how each part touches another, and how the world responds to care and attention. Zeus crawled toward the sunlit area near the outer edge of the cave. His small fingers brushed over moss, smoothed stones, and fallen leaves as he explored. The nymphs had arranged small piles of twigs, pebbles, and leaves, forming a delicate playground for observation and gentle experimentation. He pressed a stone into the stream, watching as the water curved around it, forming soft, intertwining ripples. A leaf floated past, nudged by the tiny current he had influenced. The delight on his face was quiet but full, his small lips curving into a gentle, fascinated smile. Rhea knelt beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. Every movement matters, little one, she whispered. Even a small touch changes the flow. Observe carefully, move gently, and you will see how the world responds. Zeus' eyes widened with attention as he pressed another stone, noticing how it subtly altered the stream's path. He nudged a twig into place, guiding the flow around moss-covered rocks, and watched as the patterns of sunlight danced on water and moss, shifting with every small adjustment he made. The nymphs encouraged him softly, their voices blending with the stream's murmur. See how your small movements create quiet changes, one whispered. Notice how sunlight flickers across the stones and leaves, how moss bends under your fingers, how water flows differently when guided. Each subtle action is part of a larger rhythm, little one. You are learning to notice it. Zeus pressed his hands lightly on the moss, observing its soft give, then nudged a stone just slightly, curious how even the smallest shift caused ripples in the water and subtle changes in shadow and light. He giggled softly at the tiny, perfect effects he could create. By midday, Zeus' exploration grew bolder. He began to coordinate multiple elements at once. He placed stones to redirect the stream's current, layered leaves to catch sunlight, and nudged twigs to guide water flow in intricate patterns. He noticed how sunlight changed with the shifting angle, how shadows stretched across moss, and how even the faintest breeze from the cave opening caused leaves to quiver. Every movement, no matter how small, carried a quiet consequence, and Zeus delighted in observing each gentle ripple of effect. Rhea watched him closely, a soft smile on her face, pride in her eyes. The world is patient, little one, she whispered. Even the smallest hand can create meaningful patterns when guided with care. Observe, adjust, and notice. Everything responds when your intention is gentle and precise. Zeus' small fingers moved deliberately, adjusting pebbles and leaves, nudging twigs, guiding tiny currents of water, and testing the interactions of sun, shadow, and moss. He began to anticipate outcomes, feeling a quiet sense of control without ever forcing the world to bend to him. The nymphs moved around him gracefully, offering subtle guidance. They pointed out how a leaf's edge caught the sunlight, how a small stone could redirect a flow of water without disturbing nearby moss, and how twigs could form gentle channels that made tiny patterns emerge naturally. Everything is connected, one whispered softly. Notice each ripple, each shadow, each movement. Harmony comes when you understand how each part touches the others. Zeus nodded slowly, small hands adjusting multiple stones and leaves simultaneously, his eyes wide with fascination at the quiet, complex patterns forming beneath his careful attention. The afternoon passed lazily. Sunlight shifted slowly, moving across moss, stone, and water in soft, shimmering arcs. Zeus pressed lightly against soft moss at the edge of the stream, noticing how his small touch altered the way water flowed around stones and leaves. He nudged several pebbles in sequence, creating tiny eddies that carried leaves along gentle, winding paths. Each coordinated movement brought a soft thrill, a quiet sense of mastery, and deep delight at the subtle consequences of his care and attention. Rhea knelt beside him, her fingers brushing softly against his shoulder. "You are learning the quiet strength of observation, little one," she whispered. "Each action teaches you. Every gentle touch guides the world, and every careful movement helps you see the harmony that exists everywhere." Zeus tilted his head thoughtfully, pressing his hands into the moss and adjusting stones and leaves to influence the flowing water. He noticed how sunlight shifted on the leaves and moss as he moved, how shadows stretched and shrank with the changing light, and how even the tiniest touch created new patterns in the soft, flowing dance of the cave's quiet life. As evening arrived, painting the cave in muted amber and silver, Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small fingers brushing over stones, twigs, and moss he had carefully arranged. The stream whispered steadily, the nymphs hummed gentle lullabies, and the air carried the faint scent of damp earth and blossoms. "You are learning, little one," Rhea whispered, pressing her lips gently to his forehead. "Every small action, every careful observation, teaches the rhythm of cause and effect, and you are beginning to see the quiet power in your hands." The stars twinkled softly through cracks above the cave, reflecting in the water and shimmering across the moss. Zeus yawned, stretching his small fingers and curling closer to Rhea. The hidden cave, the murmuring stream, the attentive nymphs, and the soft, fragrant mountain air wrapped him in calm, gentle protection, quiet wonder, and the serene awareness of his emerging understanding of the natural world and his place within it. Rhea rested her hand lightly on his shoulder, whispering softly, "You will grow, little one. Slowly, gently, with patience, love, and care. The world responds to your attention, and your quiet strength is blossoming. Harmony will follow your careful hand." And as Zeus drifted fully into sleep, the cave seemed to embrace him, holding him in soft wonder, calm delight, and the quiet promise of more subtle discoveries yet to come. Morning light streamed softly through the cave cracks, spilling across moss, stones, and small leaves in delicate patterns. The stream outside whispered its quiet song, threading gently around rocks and moss, filling the cave with a calm, rhythmic melody. The air carried the earthy scent of damp stone and moss, interwoven with the soft sweetness of hidden blooms. Zeus stirred slowly, stretching his tiny fingers and toes, eyes opening to the familiar sanctuary of the hidden cave. There was a gentle excitement in the air today. The nymphs had arranged an intricate pattern of stones, twigs, and leaves near the sunlit edge of the cave, forming a playful labyrinth of textures and movement. Today, one whispered softly, "You may notice the world in a new way. Every touch, every thought may have a quiet echo. Observe, little one, and discover the subtle power that rests in your hands." Zeus crawled toward the arrangement, small fingers brushing moss and smooth stones. He pressed a pebble into the shallow stream, and this time he noticed something different. The water seemed to pause for a fraction of a heartbeat before flowing around the stone, as if waiting for him to decide its path. His eyes widened with quiet wonder. He nudged a leaf into the current, and the leaf followed not just the flow, but seemed to respond to his intention, moving along a graceful curve he had imagined before touching it. Rhea knelt beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "Do you feel it, little one?" she whispered softly. "Your attention, your care, your gentle intention, they have a quiet echo in the world. The world listens when your heart and hands act together." Zeus pressed another stone, and a faint ripple of energy seemed to pulse outward, nudging leaves, water, and even moss with subtle coordination. He laughed softly, a sound filled with delight and astonishment, realizing that his small gestures now had a broader, gentler influence than ever before. The nymphs circled quietly, moving like soft shadows around him, encouraging observation without interference. "See how your touch shapes more than just what you move," one whispered. "Notice the tiny currents, the way water bends, leaves shift, and sunlight flickers. Everything responds to your gentle care and intention." Zeus tilted his head, fingers brushing across moss and stones in deliberate patterns, observing how small actions created larger, harmonious ripples throughout the cave. By midday, Zeus' confidence had grown. He began to experiment with coordinating multiple elements simultaneously, not only arranging stones, twigs, and leaves, but sensing how small movements could influence the environment subtly and indirectly. He pressed lightly on a stone, guiding the flow of water in a new direction. Sunlight caught on a leaf at a particular angle, scattering soft reflections across nearby stones. Moss quivered faintly as though acknowledging his careful, deliberate touch. Each discovery brought a quiet thrill, a soft smile, and a sense of wonder at the growing scope of his influence. Rhea watched him closely, pride and calm admiration filling her gentle gaze. "The world responds, little one," she whispered. "Your hands, your mind, and your care create harmony. You are beginning to understand a quiet power, subtle, patient, and gentle. Remember, strength is not loud or forceful. It flows quietly, like the stream that moves without haste." Zeus nodded, fingers tracing lines in the moss, nudging twigs, and guiding leaves in increasingly intricate patterns. He felt a gentle hum of connection with everything around him, as if the cave itself was acknowledging his presence and care. The nymphs whispered soft guidance, pointing out faint currents in water, delicate changes in light across stones, and how a leaf's movement influenced nearby moss. "Everything is connected, little one," they murmured. "Notice, and the patterns will become clearer. Your quiet touch can influence more than you imagine." Zeus watched attentively, hands moving carefully and deliberately, arranging, nudging, and experimenting with tiny, interconnected systems. He observed how water rippled, how leaves shifted, and how moss bent subtly, all responding in soft harmony to his gentle intention. The afternoon passed in immersive exploration. Zeus experimented with layering leaves in the stream, pressing stones lightly to guide subtle currents, and testing how tiny shifts could influence larger patterns of flow, light, and shadow. Every gentle experiment created a small cascade of interactions, each one echoing outward like a soft, quiet melody. The cave seemed to hum with approval, the murmuring stream reflecting the delicate harmony he was learning to create. Evening arrived gradually, casting amber and silver light across the cave floor. The stream whispered steadily, the nymphs hummed gentle lullabies, and Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small hands brushing the stones, leaves, and moss he had arranged into delicate, flowing patterns. "You are learning more than you know," Rhea whispered softly. "Every movement, every careful touch, teaches the rhythm of the world. You are beginning to sense the subtle power within you, the quiet ability to influence, guide, and harmonize without haste or force." As stars twinkled softly through cracks above the cave, Zeus yawned, stretching small fingers and curling closer to Rhea. His mind replayed the day's discoveries, the flowing water, shifting leaves, quivering moss, and sunlight scattering across stones in gentle patterns. The hidden cave, the murmuring stream, the attentive nymphs, and the cool, fragrant air of the outer world wrapped him in calm, protection, and quiet wonder. Rhea pressed her hand lightly on his shoulder, whispering softly, "You will grow, little one. Slowly, gently, patiently. Your strength is quiet, and your power lies in your care, attention, and harmony. The world responds to you, and this gentle ability will guide you always." And as Zeus drifted fully into sleep, the cave seemed to embrace him, holding him in soft protection, gentle discovery, and the quiet promise of the extraordinary abilities yet to emerge. Morning arrived with a soft glow, spilling golden light through the cracks of the cave, sealing and illuminating the mossy floor in gentle warmth. The stream outside whispered steadily, flowing around stones and moss, its quiet song merging with the faint rustle of leaves from the world beyond. The air carried the earthy scent of damp stone, moss, and distant blossoms, mingling with a whisper of fresh mountain breeze. Zeus stirred, small fingers brushing over soft moss, eyes opening to the familiar yet ever-changing sanctuary of his hidden world. There was a gentle invitation in the air today, a sense that the cave's edges might be explored more fully. The nymphs had arranged a subtle path of stones, moss, and twigs leading toward the openings that hinted at the world beyond. Today, one whispered softly, her voice like the rustle of leaves, "You may notice the world outside. Observe its rhythm, sense its flow, and see how even small touches reach farther than you think." Zeus crawled toward the cave's edge, fingers brushing moss and smooth stones. He paused at the threshold, feeling the gentle draft of air flowing in from outside. It carried new scents, the faint sweetness of blooming flowers, the warm, rich earth of the mountainside, and the soft, crisp aroma of distant pines. The sunlight outside was stronger, warmer, and broader than the slanting rays inside the cave. Zeus reached out a tiny hand toward it, and for a moment, he simply marveled at the brightness, the warmth, and the way the shadows inside shifted in response. Rhea knelt beside him, brushing a soft strand of hair from his forehead. The world beyond the cave moves differently, little one, she whispered. Listen, feel. Notice how the sunlight, the air, and even the distant leaves respond. Everything has its own rhythm. You may touch it gently, and it will answer in kind. Zeus nodded slowly, small hands resting lightly on the moss at the cave's edge. He pressed a stone into the shallow flow of a tiny trickle outside, and the water bent subtly around it, forming small, winding ripples that caught the sunlight and shimmered across the stones. The nymphs moved softly around him, encouraging careful observation. Notice how even a gentle touch can guide the flow, one whispered. See the sunlight on the water, how it shifts with each movement. Feel the air brush against your skin, and notice how it responds when you reach toward it. Everything is connected, little one. Zeus extended a tiny hand toward a cluster of leaves drifting near the water, and they seemed to curve slightly, following his imagined path with delicate precision. His eyes widened with quiet astonishment, and a small, soft laugh escaped his lips. By midday, Zeus' exploration had grown bolder. He pressed lightly against stones to redirect the water in subtle streams, nudged leaves into sunlight, and adjusted small twigs to form gentle channels for the flowing water. He began to anticipate outcomes, noticing how tiny gestures influence broader patterns. The nymphs guided him with soft whispers, pointing out the smallest shifts, how a leaf's edge reflected sunlight differently, how moss bent faintly under his fingers, and how sunlight caught on the water's surface in shimmering arcs. Rhea observed quietly, pride and calm warmth in her gaze. "You are learning, little one," she whispered. "Your gentle touch, your careful observation, and your awareness of cause and effect are growing. You are discovering that the world responds not just to hands, but to thought, attention, and care." Zeus nodded, pressing a pebble gently into the stream, nudging a leaf along its path, and tilting a twig just slightly to guide a tiny current. Each subtle action rippled outward, creating delicate harmony with the cave, stream, and sunlight. The afternoon passed in quiet, immersive exploration. Zeus experimented with combining multiple elements, guiding water around moss, arranging leaves to catch sunlight, and observing how small stones redirected gentle currents. Each coordinated movement deepened his understanding of subtle cause and effect, patience, and quiet influence. The cave seemed to hum softly with approval, the murmuring stream reflecting the patterns he was learning to create. As evening approached, casting amber and silver light across moss, stones, and flowing water, Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, small hands brushing over stones, moss, and leaves he had arranged. "You are learning the rhythm of the world," Rhea whispered, pressing a gentle kiss to his forehead. "Every small action, every careful observation, teaches harmony, patience, and gentle influence. You are beginning to sense the reach of your subtle power." The stars began to twinkle through cracks above the cave, their light catching on the water and moss, casting delicate patterns across the floor. Zeus yawned, curling closer to Rhea. His small fingers twitched, remembering the day's discoveries. The flowing water, shifting leaves, quivering moss, sunlight dancing across stones, and the faint hum of air moving past the cave opening. Rhea rested her hand lightly on his shoulder, whispering softly, "You will grow, little one. Slowly, gently, patiently. Every careful touch, every observation, every experiment will guide you toward the quiet strength within. The world beyond the cave listens and responds to you with gentle, harmonious ripples." As Zeus drifted into sleep, the hidden cave, the murmuring stream, the attentive nymphs, and the soft, fragrant mountain air wrapped him in calm, protection, and wonder. Each subtle discovery and gentle influence hinted at the remarkable abilities quietly emerging, awaiting the careful guidance of Rhea's love and the nurturing presence of the nymphs. Morning arrived slowly, spilling soft golden light across the cave and into the mossy floor. The stream's gentle murmur blended with faint birdsong drifting from the mountains outside. The air smelled fresh with the scent of pine, damp earth, and hidden flowers. Zeus stirred beneath the soft warmth, tiny fingers brushing the moss, eyes opening to the familiar sanctuary, now feeling more expansive than ever. Rhea knelt beside him, her voice calm and soft. "Today, little one, you may touch more of the world. See the patterns beyond the cave, feel the air, the sunlight, the tiniest ripple of life. Everything responds to gentle care and attention." Zeus crawled toward the cave's opening, sunlight warming his small hands as he reached toward leaves, stones, and twigs just outside. He pressed lightly on a small stone, and the stream curved around it, carrying leaves gently along new paths. A breeze stirred, and he extended a hand. The leaves seemed to respond to his intention, shifting slightly in the air, twirling as though dancing in harmony with his movements. The nymphs moved around him quietly, their whispers blending with the wind. "Notice the world beyond your hands," one murmured. "Sunlight bends, water flows, leaves move. Even the smallest attention matters. You are learning to guide without force, to observe without hurry, to influence with care." Zeus experimented with small patterns, nudging stones, arranging moss, catching sunlight on leaves, and redirecting water gently. Each subtle action created ripples that traveled farther than before. Even tiny insects nearby seemed to pause, their movements slightly aligning with the streams of wind and water he influenced. He realized the world was responding to more than just touch. It responded to care, attention, and gentle intention. Rhea watched quietly, brushing a hand along his back. "You are growing, little one." Slowly, gently, every small act creates a quiet harmony. Your understanding is blooming, and the world listens to you because of your care. Afternoon passed with the sun moving lazily across the sky. Zeus guided tiny leaves into streams of sunlight, pressed stones to redirect small rivulets, and nudged twigs to form delicate channels for water flow. Every gentle motion, every small observation, taught him patience, subtlety, and the quiet reach of his influence. As evening approached, the mountains glowed in muted amber, the stream whispered, and the breeze brushed the moss. Zeus rested against Rhea's chest, hands brushing stones and leaves he had moved that day. "You are learning," Rhea whispered softly. "The world beyond the cave responds to careful hands and thoughtful hearts. You are ready to carry this understanding with you." The stars began to twinkle, reflecting faintly in the stream and on dew-laden moss. Zeus yawned, curling closer to Rhea. His small hands remembered the day's gentle discoveries, the flowing water, shifting leaves, sunlight catching on moss, and the faint ripples of air stirred by his care. Rhea pressed her hand lightly on his shoulder. "The world is vast, little one, and your quiet strength will grow with every careful touch, every kind intention. You are ready for tomorrow's gentle discoveries." Zeus drifted into sleep, the hidden cave, the murmuring stream, and the mountain air holding him in calm, soft wonder and quiet anticipation of the world yet to be touched.